A lot has happened. So many conversations have been had. I like to say that today is day one after Ghanaians decide and the Electoral Commission declare our president-elect, John Dramani Mahama. Good morning and welcome to the AM show with me, Sweetie Abochi.
My name is Benjamin Akakpo. We used to tell you 10 days before, 8 days before. Now I guess we can say 3 days after the elections and of course after we had a president-elect. This is the AM show. Welcome aboard.
Now, let's tell you why this morning it is absolutely worth waking up to the AM show. We'll start by serving you the AM news, the latest stories in and around the country, especially on the elections and some of the incidents that occurred. After that, we'll sit with our guests to review the newspapers. Who's joining us for news review today? NDC South Africa Council of Elders Chair and Mr. Benjamin Kofi Kwashi. They're joining us to review the newspapers. And after that, Muftan Abel Abdullahi will serve you AM Sports. Ben will tell you what we're doing for our big stories.
Well, after that, we transition into the big stories. And it's because there's going to be a joint transitional team to begin work as early as Wednesday, the 12th of December, as President-elect John Dramani Mahama prepares to take office on the 7th of January 2025. Meanwhile, the incoming president has urged a rampaging youth to channel their frustration into the positive enterprise of resetting and rebuilding the nation. This morning, we find out from you what your immediate expectations are of a new government. What are you expecting of them? We'll be having that conversation this morning.
Also, we'll have a conversation with Reverend Kweku Adu, Member of Parliament elect for Ablekuma West, who managed to unseat an MPP stalwart. I mean, some of the shocking revelations in some constituencies that we thought were NPP strongholds that flipped to the NDC side. How did he do it in particular? Because he unseated Eselo Usu, the current Member of Parliament for Ablekuma West. We'll find out as he joins us for a conversation right here in the studio. You want to join us with your thoughts, your comments across all social media platforms? We are Joy News on TV. And hopefully, maybe we can open the phone lines at the tail end of this morning so you get to have your say.
Well, that's the shape of our show for today. You want to stick and stay with us? We'll be serving you the news right up next.
Good morning again. This is the AM News, and we are live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 125, on Joy News as well as Joy Prime, and around the world at myjoyonline.com. This is the AM News, starting with channel your energy into positive enterprise of resetting and rebuilding Ghana. These are the words of President-elect John Dramani Mahama as he urges those engaged in acts of vandalism at government facilities and installations to stop immediately. Speaking shortly after being declared the winner of the 2024 presidential election by the Electoral Commissioner, Jean Mensah, he acknowledged the challenges ahead, stating that the journey will not be smooth because the outgoing government has plunged Ghana into an abyss. He says his government would be initiating severe measures in the next 4 years to reset the country to restore Ghana's position as the black star of Africa. Here's more.
What a day! What a day the Lord has made.
The atmosphere at John Mahama's campaign office was filled with celebration and gratitude as his vehicle arrived. Party stalwarts and supporters, many dressed in white, gathered to mark the occasion. NDC Chairman Johnson Isiedun Ketia, however, urged members to remain modest in their celebrations.
The battle has ended, and the great elephant has been slaughtered mercilessly. Let me advise that we should be modest in our celebrations, because I can almost feel the weight of responsibility on our shoulders. Ghanaians have given us this mandate to accomplish the task of national reconstruction.
Vice President-elect Professor Nana Jane Opukwajiman said her role is not about personal recognition, but about paving the way for others to succeed.
The victory is for all of us, but especially for our daughters, for our youth, for our women, NDC is an inclusive party, and we are demonstrating it in many ways. My job was to have opened the door.
In his address, President-elect John Mahama called on citizens to refrain from vandalizing government facilities and installations, urging them instead to channel their frustrations into rebuilding and resetting Ghana.
I know that many of you are feeling frustrated and angry, but I ask you today, please do not give in to negativity and pessimism. There have been reports of acts of vandalism at some government facilities and installations. I urge you not to vent your frustration in criminal enterprise. We must channel our anger and frustration into the positive enterprise of resetting and rebuilding our nation.
John Mahama also revealed that he had received a congratulatory call from President Kufuor. During their conversation, both leaders agreed on the swift inauguration of a joint transitional team to ensure a smooth transfer of power.
And we had the opportunity to discuss matters related to the joint transitional team. We agreed on an early inauguration of the joint transitional team as early as Wednesday, the 11th of December. I conveyed my sincerest regards to him and expressed my readiness for us to work together to ensure a smooth transition in the best interest of the Ghanaian people.
Acknowledging the challenges ahead, John Mahama stated that the outgoing government has left Ghana in a dire state. However, he expressed confidence in the collective ability to overcome these obstacles and rebuild the nation.
I also give thanks to God for preparing a table before me in the presence of my enemies, and for anointing my head with oil and making my cup run over. For all its historic undertones, this mandate represents many things for all political actors and those who seek to lead our nation. It shows that the Ghanaian people have little tolerance for bad governance, particularly of the sort witnessed in the last 8 years, and that they are willing to take decisive action at critical moments when it matters most. These 8 years have witnessed some of the darkest periods of our governance. The crisis our beloved country has been through these last several years have left a scar on our national psyche, which may take some time to erase. This mandate also serves as a constant reminder of what fate awaits us if we fail to meet the aspirations of our people and govern with arrogance.
Right down spokesperson for the John Mahama campaign, now President-elect. I'm here, Joyce Bawah-Mogtari.
We thank God for this day. You know, I think someone said something interesting to me today, and that in 2016, Akufo-Addo told us very boldly that he had won by over 1 million votes, or close to 1 million votes. In 2020, he won by over a little above 400,000 votes. In 2024, the good Lord has added the 1 million then, the 400,000 then, and today, John Mahama has gotten way above the extra 1.4 million votes between the two gentlemen. And then the second thing is also the fact that he kept referring to John Mahama as a one-term president. Today, the good Lord has made it possible to secure a commanding second term for John Dramani Mahama.
It's a celebratory mood right here. The atmosphere is electric. With the sound system here, blaring out loud music, John Mahama music, and you can see these young ones dancing to the music. It's a lot of jubilation, a lot of celebration, which is expected to go deep into the night. Let's speak to some of the people here.
It's kind of a mixed feeling. It's a mixed feeling because We saw it coming, but not so overwhelmingly. But all glory be to God. A lot of things were on point. I think the IT guys were seriously on point, and that also helped us.
Jamboree now, celebration, free for all, dancing, music, powder, everything you can think of. And there are some celebratory fireworks also up there in the air. We want to show you a bit of that. Some fireworks up there.
Oh, yeah. This video there. I'm so happy with this video. I'm so happy. I'm so happy.
Why are you happy? Why are you happy?
8 years ago, it's not easy to be a man in Ghana. All men will turn into women in Ghana. But all men in Ghana have turned to women. Oh. But today, this is the second independence of Ghana. Yeah. The second independence after Kwame Nkrumah. Today, we have our independence today. We are liberated today. Master.
What do you mean when you say all men have turned into women?
Master, your pay. What can you do with your pay?
Meanwhile, President Akufo-Addo says he is committed to ensuring a seamless transfer of power on the 7th of January 2025 and looks forward to working with the president-elect and his team to realize his goal. He has invited John Dramani Mahama for a meeting on Wednesday at the Jubilee House to initiate the transition process. According to the statement from Akufo-Addo, he congratulated President-elect John Dramani Mahama on winning the 2024 presidential election. And it says, further to this evening's official declaration by the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Mrs. Jean Mensah, of the results of the 2024 presidential election, the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has called President-elect John Dramani Mahama to congratulate him on his decisive victory in the just-ended presidential election. President Akufo-Addo expressed his commitment to ensuring a seamless transfer of power on 7 January 2025 and looks forward to working with the president-elect and his team to realize this goal. It goes on and on, but it also says that President Akufo-Addo calls on all Ghanaians to unite and work together to consolidate democracy and the rule of law. And in the spirit of collaboration, the president has invited the president-elect for a meeting on Wednesday, that is tomorrow, 11th December 2024, at Jubilee House to initiate the transition process. He remains committed to the principles of good governance and a peaceful transition that would further strengthen Ghana's reputation as a beacon of democracy in Africa. May God continue to bless our homeland, Ghana, and make her great and strong. A statement signed by Eugene Ahin, Director of Communication at the Office of the President. In other stories, Dr. Rashid Hassan Pelpio has won a consecutive 6th parliamentary term in the West Central constituency. He polled 38,579 votes against his arch-rival, Humu Awudu, who also had 30,724 votes. And the victory of Dr. Rashid Pelpio and the concessionary speech of the vice flag bearer of the NPP, Dr. Mamudu Bawumia, has resulted in spontaneous jubilation by supporters of the NDC in the West Central constituency. And Joy News Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam reports that Dr. has reigned for 2 decades. Though he has reigned for 2 decades, he has not stated clearly when he will bow out from Parliament.
The announcement should not be a surprise, though they have worked and expected the victory margin to widen.
The NDC will win both the parliamentary and presidential votes in our constituency.
Dr. Rashid Hassan Pelpio garnered 38,579 against 30,724 by Old Foe and perennial MPP candidate Humu Awudu, who had thrown her hat on the ring for a second time. She was hopeful during the morning of the elections, but won out by the evening and later faded out by the dead of the night. She has no place and time for concessional speech. Many wonders whether she will join the tall list of failed MPP parliamentary aspirants who have sunk into oblivion, or will see her return to the political space. Standing to his right is his wife, Hajiya Ramatu Pelpu, and one of the masterminds and campaigns of his overwhelming victory, Alhaji Ali Wawana, Dr. Rosita Sempelpu, pledged to fulfill the promises made to the people.
Promises I have made and made during the elections will be fulfilled. We are going to work very hard to ensure that we reset the system, we bring back the developments we lost all the 8 years, and we create a needed atmosphere for you to have a positive mind about yourself, about the constituency, and about Ghana.
He appears not to be certain about when he will throw in the towel, having been there for the past 20 years.
You may see my name in other areas. I won't confirm which other areas.
Those in the line jostling to succeed him may have to wait a bit longer. Outside the coalition center, a swarm of enthusiastic NDC party supporters who are spilled and filled the streets, jubilating over the valiant victory of the party in the polls.
I'm excited, very, very sure, because I know that now we are no more in free education, but we are in better education. And we want to assure everybody that nobody should not be afraid of free education. We are happy, we
We are happy that John Dramani Mahama has won. Pupils can no longer go to school and have nutritious meal to eat. We cannot buy maize to cook for our families, and we cannot buy salt.
Yes, I'm so happy. I'm so happy that NDC can power. We show that everything can cook. You've seen those jubilant NDC supporters who come here, they have split all streets in the West Central constituency. They are in jubilant mood, saying that they are happy that of the return of the NDC.
For now, the blunt truth here is success has many fathers, but defeat is an orphan. One can distinguish between an NDC supporter and that of the MPP in the West Central constituency. All have joined the victory wagon, and it's been like this till the sunset through the wee hours of the morning.
Reporting for J News, Rafik Salam.
In other news, 8 people have been arrested in connection with the looting of the Department of Agriculture warehouse in Tamale. Hundreds of bags of rice and maize were packed in tricycles, pickup trucks, motorbikes, among others, by some unknown people from the warehouse. The military and the police were called in to halt the loot, and some arrests have been made. Here's more.
There have been series of looting of government institutions in the northern region after the loss of the New Patriotic Party. The first place was the Tamale Metro Assembly, where a tipper truck, a tanker, rice, cash, among others, were carried away. Several hours later, the PWD building was attacked, but the military was there early to stop the loot. Then they moved to the Agric Department, where several thousands of bags of rice and farm inputs were stolen. Speaking to the media, the Northern Regional Director of Agriculture, Hajiya Hawa Musa, said the rice was meant for women farmers who had lost everything during the dry spell.
Welders to come and see what they can do for the place to be shut for today. And we also plead with the military and then the police to give us guard so that things will cool down. Because if they go back, then it means they'll come back again to loot the items. Well, we received two trucks of maize, and each truck carries 500. So that is 1,000 bags. And then for the rice too, there were about 4 trucks. So that one will be about 2,000 bags. Then the post-harvest chemicals too, we received them to the tune of 2,000 cartons of post-harvest chemicals. But looking at the situation, enough has been taken away already. And then we had some motorbike parts here, helmets and some. I understand they've picked all of them away. These items were actually brought to us because they asked us to identify women farmers that their crops have been affected due to the drought. So we've identified them, but due to the election, we had to wait. And then after the election, we'll sort it out for them to come and pick just to help the household.
The National Democratic Congress Vice Chairperson, Sofa Azoka, who was at the scene, said the matter should be dealt with as a crime.
They should send them, then they talk, some of them are innocent. You know, today look the park there. Everybody is jubilating. Me, I think that is intentional beating. Because of that, I stopped. When I came in, I saw what they did. And some of them are not a criminal, but it's fine. They should send them to police station and we'll come and they will write their statements. Me, I think it's about the party issue when they are jubilating. When I come, it's different thing altogether.
Earlier, an NDC youth who spoke to the media said the youth were angry, and knowing that several bags of what belongs to them had been hidden, they took advantage.
You understand? There is nothing that, there's no amount of force that anybody can do to the system. We are learning that.
Meanwhile, one person has been injured in the forehead in the process.
That will end our AM News Bulletin on the AM Show. You want to stay with us because News Review comes right up next. And the NDC South Africa Council of Elders Chair will be joining us, Benjamin Kofi-Kwashi, to review the newspapers. You want to join us? Please stay. This is the morning after the official declaration of President-elect John Dramani Mahama as president, and you're live on the AM Show. Of course, you're about to review the newspapers because this is the news review segment, and Ben and I are ready to take you away.
Indeed, we'll have a guest join us shortly, but aren't you going to give me about 2 minutes to express my sentiments as your guest this morning? In the meantime,
Nakapo, welcome to the show. So,
thank you.
Morning after the election,
Right.
official declaration of results for the 2024 election. Give me a sense of where your mind is at this morning.
Thank you, sweetie. Well, my mind is on a number of issues, and one of the most comical yet very relevant. This election has taught me a lot of lessons, which I can say and Friday I'll share them in my blunt thoughts. But for now, it's got me reflecting on different aspects of our national life. For example, our chiefs who endorsed this or that party. It doesn't matter whom they endorsed. What happens to them now? Especially if you have a vindictive leader. I said if, and we've seen certain things in the past. Party foot soldiers and people who feel affiliated to this or that party, who are looting, engaging in sometimes wanton distraction. And I hear there are both sides, because there are some people also in government trying to hide certain things, and people who are also taking advantage of a win, doing things that all of these people, the law should deal with them. In fact, woto, there's this paper that uses woto this morning. Without fear or favor, it doesn't matter whether you're NDC or NPP. If you're engaging in the wrong thing, the law should deal with you. But especially, I'm curious about our religious leaders. Some of them at the helm of the National Cathedral who made prophecies that certain things would happen, and they didn't. You see, I think we have to get to the point Rwanda has got to, where even if you want to set up a church or something, the stipulations and everything, because I think we joke too much in this country. And pardon my French, we fool too much in this country,
right,
in the name of God.
Right.
I mean, God is not to be mocked. And all these people, I'm not situating it on any specific, but I'm saying that if God hasn't shown you something and you go claiming you've seen something, and then you see people in the congregation clapping. I'm so proud when it comes to these things that I'm Catholic, because you don't see this nonsense in the Catholic Church. You don't see these things. But I'll share more on these things in my blunt thoughts on Friday. I feel as a nation, we have to get past some of these things. Why? If you don't say something, will it make you less relevant? Because you see, it's not just about them. It's about the God we serve, some of us, and how. The Bible says it. Because of you, the Gentiles speak ill of God. Because of some things that are done.
Right. You know what this election, what picture it paints for me? Let me try and explain it with an analogy. It looks like a young woman who chose a suitor, right?
Mm.
And it turns out that the suitor isn't all that she thought he was.
Mm.
And when it got to the point for this woman to decide or to think through whether her situation is indeed that bad enough to leave, she's been gaslit to the point that she believes that the suitor, although it's not doing well, is actually the best. In fact, the man makes it look like he's the best option that this woman has.
Mm.
And the woman bides her time, patiently waiting for the right time to leave.
Mm.
And the man didn't see it coming. Even if he did, he thought, or he was so complacent and he thought it wouldn't happen to him. He's got his hooks right where he wants you.
Mm.
And the day comes and the woman leaves.
Right.
This is what has happened to us.
There's a song. I don't know whether you know it.
And I just want to remind the president-elect, these are words of Otumfuo Setutu when President Otumfuo was elected.
They are so instructive.
The exact thing that we should be telling the president-elect, John Dramani Mahama, this morning, that so don't come and do us shaggy. This one we beg. And I think that where you've reached now, you don't need the money for anything. These are the words of Otumfuo. You need to build a legacy for us. And I don't think that Ghanaians were voting in the NDC as much as voting out the ruling new
It wasn't so much of,
No.
NDC.
Yeah.
In fact, it wasn't so much of former President Mahama, you are like a saint, and that's why.
It was between two evils, which was the lesser evil. So this is the time for you to prove to us that one person, there is a leader in this country who really has the country at heart, who has the interest of the people at heart, so that, for God help us in this country. The jubilation, it's been a while, Benjamin. I saw people jubilating on the streets. Ghanaians were celebrating something, you know, and NPP, NDC, everyone was just...
And you know, there's this whole conversation about, you mentioned it at a point, and it drew my attention to it. Before I say that, by the way, someone just adds that not only the Catholic Church, all the Orthodox churches, including Methodist and indeed, we don't engage in some of this, and I'm going to be a bit abrasive this morning. Charlatanism, we don't engage in that. You see all these purported men and women of God. I'm saying it, and I know it's hurting some people, and I'm intentionally saying it because we know it's the wrong thing. Does God make mistakes?
I saw someone
He does not. So if you come and say that God said this, people don't read the Bible sometimes.
Yeah.
He would say of some of his prophets, look, not one word falls to the ground. If God is speaking through you, what he has said will come true.
Yeah.
It will.
I
But the point I wanted to make, my sincere apologies. Former President Mahama, now President-elect, shouldn't tickle himself and laugh and think maybe because we have brought him back, we are going to handle him, treat him with kid gloves. In fact, it would be the worst mistake he could make.
I think we have more expectations of him.
Yesterday, I was very happy. He seems to be pretty sober. He's talking about a quick transitional meeting and all of that. Yeah. Because Ghanaians have got to the point, he should realize, the NPP, even in the Savannah region, won by this. The vice president's hometown, they won by this kind of margin. They lost the Western region. In the Eastern region, it was unhealthily close. In the Ashanti region, shocker. You see, that 1.67 plus million gap, almost 1.7 million, unprecedented gap that he gave Dr. Bawumia. By the way, you saw the video of Dr. Bawumia saying that he wants a gap in the election. You should be careful sometimes what you ask for. He got the gap in reverse.
Yeah.
But that gap was Ghanaians saying, we are entrusting to you something. Come and do something better. Because you see, if he doesn't, it will be something else.
Right.
Over
and
to
then
you.
that gap, the over 1.6 million people we saw, I want to believe that most of them are young or new registered voters. You know, we're told that this figure was around 1 million new registered voters, right?
Yeah.
Most of them who are just turned 18 and the rest. And these are people who've had the opportunity to live under this administration, seen what's happening in other countries where young people have united with one voice against government and have been able to achieve results. We have seen what the power of the people really is and what it can do. And so this over 1 million people, I want to believe, are young people who are saying that, okay, we deserve more than this. What else is there for us? You know, we're asking questions. This election wasn't about, you know, that rhetoric of even if it's a stone in NPP colors or NDC colors, we'll still vote for them. It was about analyzing policies. It was about understanding where we are in terms of the economy. It was about which of these leaders looks like they could actually liberate us. And, you know, I heard some of the commentary. They're saying that this is the second independence of Ghana. Anyway, it looks like Ghanaians are just excited.
But something I expected you to say, which you've not said.
What's that?
I've always told you that I'm very happy to see, and I've done it on this show, and I've done it with you, women, you know.
Oh my God.
I am so happy.
Salute to the first female vice president of this country. Oh my God, how did I forget that? Good morning, Professor Jane Nano Pukwajiman. I wish you speedy recovery from that cold, and we are so proud. It's a great day for women in this country. Hopefully, I can have you on Women Power Politics so we catch up on how you achieve this wonderful feat. It's so easy.
I like the way you are pitching.
I'm so
you are pitching for the interview, but it's a good one.
Yeah.
I've always said that women in high office, I mean, there are some who go there and, you know, act certain ways, and we've seen some of our politicians. A little power. No. I'm not making it general. I'm saying that there are some who go there and a little power, and they start, you know, ruffling feathers. But looking at who she is, the kind of personality she is, and how she's conducted herself, even as a politician, I am hoping that she will do great things, of course, for the generality of the population, but that her being there will impact especially women and children positively. I am intentionally leaving out men because, I mean, definitely there will be things that will impact men positively. But that is one of the major highlights for me, having our first female president. Namibia recently got a female. I mean, other countries have taken the lead. Tanzania, Namibia. Yeah. We've not got there yet, but this is a great positive.
Now we are there.
It's a great positive.
We have a foot in the door. And I heard that, you know, there were questions were asked about why she wasn't seen in the media as much as John Dramani Mahama. And I heard that she was actually boots on the ground, going door to door without cameras.
I know that for a fact.
Speaking to women. You know,
I know that for a fact.
Speaking to women. So the campaign, I think it was divide and conquer. You know, John Mahama with the media, the press, Professor Jane into the home.
No, she was in the trenches. And you know, both MPP and NDC were sending some of us details of where they are and all of that. And I was getting details of where she was with her team. I know people who were on her team who were, oh, now we are here and there. So she was definitely doing her bit.
Right.
But let's get our guest into the picture.
Yeah. We've been joined in the studio by NDC South Africa Council of Elders Chair Benjamin Kofi Kwashi. Welcome to the program. This is the AM show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How does it feel morning after the official declaration of President John Dramani Mahama as president-elect of the 2024 election? How does it feel?
Thank you. I think that the whole country is in a jubilant mood, irrespective of the parties that we belong to. I think this is a victory for democracy. I think the people have spoken. President Mahama in his acceptance speech said that he was going to be a president for all. And I think that the Ghanaian people have sent a very clear message to all politicians. And so now politicians should know that you cannot take the people for granted. And I'm happy that we are here.
Okay, let's get into our newspapers. I'm sure the conversation will progress and some of the things will come to light. Let me start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. On the front page, our best days are ahead. Mahama inspires hope in victory speech. EC declares Mahama as president-elect. AU, ECOWAS, Commonwealth laud Ghanaians for peaceful elections. President Akufo-Addo congratulates President-elect John Dramani Mahama. I just want to read a bit of the story. It says, in a triumphant address to the nation, President-elect John Dramani Mahama has emphasized his commitment to deliver good governance to the people of Ghana, promising to govern with humility and integrity. Let's get into the paper now and see what else is there. Morocco produces Africa's first Mpox test. President Akufo-Addo congratulates President-elect John Dramani Mahama. We brought you that statement earlier in our news bulletin. Speaker Bagbin congratulates President-elect John Dramani Mahama. And the Speaker of Parliament, Alban S.K. Bagbin, has extended heartfelt congratulations to President-elect John Dramani Mahama on his victory in last Saturday's election. And I mean, I've seen so much on X, especially about how the Speaker of Parliament is the politician of the year. I don't know what you make of it, but let's start the conversation from there. Mr. Kwashi.
I think the Speaker had a very difficult time as the Speaker of the Parliament that we had due to the fact that there was not a clear majority in Parliament. I remember when the impasse happened, he came up with a statement and said that had it not been for his leadership, Parliament would not have gotten to where it has gotten to. And I think he did so well. We might have our different opinions and assertions as to how he performed, but the Ghanaian people would always remember the Speaker, Speaker Bagbin, as one man who stood his foot, one man who helped deepen our democracy. And I think that as a politician of the year, he deserves it.
Okay. Now, thugs on, that's the back page of the Daily Graphic. Thugs on rampage across the country. Some thugs went on the rampage in some areas across the country, looting shops, coordinating directorates and state-owned facilities, claiming that their government was now in charge. On Graphic Road in Accra yesterday, some of the thugs attempted to loot shops closer to the head office of the Graphic Communications Group, leaving members of the public to run helter-skelter. And this was happening all around the country. In fact, the constituency that I monitored, Ablekuma West, I think that's where it all started from. And I remember vividly how the NDC kept using the word vigilance, be vigilant. Even when the counting started, collation started, you see statements on social media, move to the collation centers. Do you think that that had anything to do with the violence that we experienced? Because it was a lot.
I think there's no room for us to condone all the violence that is happening. It's wrong. It's totally wrong. I read the statement that was issued by Sami Jemfi, and then the national chairman also issued a statement. And yesterday, President Mahama said that it was not right for us to destroy public facilities and all that is happening. We understand that our people are happy. We understand that the country is excited, but there shouldn't be room for what we see happening. And I think that as Ghanaians first, we should all recoil, let the jubilation cease now, and then help President Mahama in ensuring that we have a smooth transition. And also for our members to know that we cannot continue to be on the rampage. We are all Ghanaians. Let's seize it, and then let's cool heads flow. The government will take off on January 7th. Once that happens, I'm sure that we would all grow as a country together.
Mr. Kwashi, before I hand over to Ben, is it possible that there was misunderstanding from the electorate, voters, based on what they were hearing? Be vigilant, move to the collation centers. Do you think there's a thin line there between what the party was communicating and how the voters understood it, which then resulted in the pockets of violence that we experienced?
The communication from the election directorate was clear. Going into this election, we didn't trust the Electoral Commission. We wanted to be sure that everything was done right. So calling on us to be vigilant didn't mean that we should be violent. And I don't think that the election director or any other person in the party would ask anybody to be lawless when it comes to destroying public property. I think that there was a point that if you could read social media during the elections when they said they should put on body cameras, and people felt that...
Did they really have body cams?
No, it was a message that showed that we should get there, we should use our phones, smartphones, and I think that irrespective of whatever it is, the violence should be condemned. I think that Ghana has won, and we should all grow together.
Ben? Benjamin Akako.
Yeah.
Your paper? Okay.
Good to have you in the studio.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Ben.
For me, some of my takeaways, I just saw a message come through from someone who says, remember His Excellency Dramani cannot fix the country in one term. I agree to a certain extent. Yes, yeah, we are not expecting someone to come with a magic wand and within 4 years change what damage has been done over 8 years. Exactly. It's not possible.
Yes.
Even with kicking an addiction, they say it takes about a month.
Yes.
To get addicted to something. So if you want to get out of it, it will not take you less than that time. Okay. You will need that time or more to get out of an addiction. But we expect him to do certain things, show certain signals. Exactly. And I like so far how he's going.
Okay.
Our prayer is that he continues that way.
He will.
Because Sweetie Abochi was just mentioning what Otumfuo told Nanado. And I am excited about how Ghanaians have shown politicians. Politicians come into our studios and honestly, sometimes I feel so aggrieved, if not for sitting here and having to control yourself. You may want to do something to this person because they take us for fools.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, they are come any day.
Ebufuo.
It happened in 2016. Yeah. Let's not forget that. If we go back to those, same thing will happen.
Absolutely.
But quick points I want to make. You see, the National Peace Council, there's always a peace pact. I think they should add in there whether the National Peace Council or maybe some other outlet, that when they are signing these things, they should also add that their supporters, they should add something telling their supporters or stating that they will control their supporters so that if they win, they will not do some of the things we are seeing.
Absolutely.
Because those things are criminal acts. I hear in one instance, someone said that, oh, his warehouse or his shop, that the former president would never win, and that if he won, people could come and take the things out. That is what I've heard. Even if he said that, you can't, there's no contract there. You can't go and take the stuff in the name of he said this. It's against the law.
Yes, it is.
So let's be clear on those. I don't know what you think, sweetie, but I feel we should insert it in there that while we take it for granted, we have seen over 8-year cycles. This is not the first time these things are happening. So that you, the politicians, hold your people, your supporters, accountable.
Right.
So that they don't do whatever they feel like doing. But my quick bit to you, how do you feel about the delays as far as the EC is concerned? The regional layer of collation and how, because you, the political parties, about 4 hours afterwards, the NDC had collated practically all its results. Yes. The MPP also knew.
Yes.
That was why it was so easy for, and I salute him this morning, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, His Excellency, the Vice President. That was a classic case of statesmanship. He, by doing that, though the Electoral Commission had not, given a verdict, it brought peace. It brought the tension down. And no one, regardless of where you stand, should belittle that. That was a great act of statesmanship, and I salute him this morning. So your reaction to those, and then we can get into.
I think you're very spot on in saying that we should have our politicians, when they are signing these peace pacts, also bring their supporters on board. Like you've said rightly, it's something that we all need to condemn. We've condemned it. And I think that the supporters of the NDC should know that we are all Ghanaians first before our political colorations. On the issue of what the Electoral Commissioner did, I think we should all pat her in the back, irrespective of how we felt about her. She said she wanted all the results signed before she could declare, and that happened yesterday, even though they were left with some 9 or 6 other places that were not declared. And I think that the Electoral Commission, through the reforms that they have, personally from where I sit, I think that it has yielded some positive results. They did things right this time, and I'm sure that going forward, those reforms will be carried along for the Electoral Commission to be the best that we want it to be.
We also have 9 constituencies left.
Yes.
So in fact, the figure we put out, the 56.55% for Mahama and the other for Dr. Bawumia may change. In fact, they will change. Yes. And then we'll have actual numbers when it comes to Parliament. What are your expectations there?
I think that this Parliament is a Parliament that it's something else. Outright majority, 2/3 probably. But I think also that we shouldn't take advantage of that to do things. Like you said, the Ghanaian people will punish us if we think that we have outright majority and we do what we want to do, whatever we want to do, not carrying the Ghanaian people along. I think this Parliament should be a Parliament that changes a lot of things for the betterment of our country. We have the numbers, and I'm sure that the numbers will help us do things in the right direction.
Okay. Would you like to get into any of your papers?
Yes. I think the Hawk newspaper on the front page says, John ruthlessly nukes Bawumia. NDC decimates NPP in historic victory. Then on page 6, it says, the fall of the Arabian king, Akufo-Addo's statue toppled. On page 6, let me read a bit of that. It says, the fall of Arabian king, Akufo-Addo's statue toppled. In a bold and symbolic act of defiance, jubilant supporters in the Western region have thrown down a statue of the Achim Mafia-styled king of Arabia. I won't continue with it because, like we said, we need to grow as a country. These sort of statements, we should condemn them. And
these tend to be
Yes, we should condemn that. It's not right. Whatever it is, this is a property that belongs to the state. We don't have the right to put it down. So I think that we should condemn it in all certain terms.
Any other stories you want to do?
Well, we have some papers, so we can do one and then we circle back to you, Ben.
Yes,
okay. So let's then do one more paper.
So the Daily Guide, police arrest 89 suspects, and I'm fully behind the police in these acts. You go and engage in tomfoolery out there, and they arrest you. No one will come to your rescue. Mahama wins 2024 polls with 56.55%. That's according to the EC. NPP condemns post-election violence. 2 dead at Akumadan over fertilizer looting. Just on a lighter note, though, I wonder if this had been in reverse, I wonder what the caption would be for the Daily Guide newspaper. Baseball star signs biggest MLB deal. That's Major League Baseball I'm talking about. That's on the back page of the Daily Guide. Juan Soto set to sign what is reportedly the biggest contract in the history of sport after agreeing a $765 million, that's 600 million pounds, a deal over 15 years with Major League Baseball, New York Mets. That is gargantuan. 600 million pounds. Wow, that's 15 years, of course. EPL official sacked after investigation. English Premier League official David Coote has been sacked by referee's body, that's the Pigmore, following a thorough investigation into his conduct. Coote, 42, was suspended by the Pigmore, the Professional Game Match Officials Limited, on November 11, pending a full investigation after a video allegedly showed him making derogatory comments about Liverpool and the club's former manager, Jurgen Klopp, was circulated on social media. We all have to watch what we say. Mourinho hails referee despite defeat, and AGIF congratulates Mahama. That is the Emperor Gaza International Foundation, disability sports oriented. So let me just pick very quickly because we are already fully aware of these stories. Page 3. The Ghana Police Service has announced that a total of 89 suspects have been arrested in connection with various offences related to the recent electoral violence in the country. Of these, 40 suspects are directly linked to acts of vandalism, looting, and property destruction. I'll just hang it there, but ACP Ansan Akrofi announced that the Security Task Force is providing static security at state facilities while engaging with government officials and other stakeholders to address their specific concerns. Of course, all of this will not be tolerated. Absolutely. Then there is, on that same page, the win of Mahama. I don't think I need to go back to that. NPP condemns post-election violence. And I'll just wrap with this. 2 dead at Akumadan over fertilizer looting. That one I will do. So 2 people were reported dead following a violent clash yesterday at Akumadan in the Offenso North constituency of the Ashanti region. The incident is linked to an attempted looting of some fertilizers owned by Dr. Fred Che Asamoah, the parliamentary candidate of the New Patriotic Party in the constituency. According to reports, a group of youth believed to be supporters of the National Democratic Congress stormed a warehouse at the cocoa station in Akumadan, allegedly claiming they were now in charge and intended to take the fertilizers. Like I said, some of this nonsense, if proven true and if you are caught, you will have yourself to blame. The fact that you have won something does not mean you engage in this kind of... No. I mean, if you were on the other side, if you were the one this was happening to, would you be happy? Simple.
Yeah.
Any quick reflections on these stories before I...
Yeah, I think that Ben has said it all. Condemnable. We shouldn't condone such behavior. And I'm happy that the police have arrested people, and I'm sure that the law will take its course. But I encourage our supporters and all Ghanaians that we should be very decorous in our celebrations. No more destruction of public property. Let's all foster around as one people with a common destiny. Like that.
The Economic Times, are they going to tell us the state of the economy? No, not really. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama returns to Jubilee House. Deloitte's BOG hopeful of CD rebound, and domestic debt exchange program participants to recover losses by 2026, according to the finance minister. In fact, just these three stories, and then I'll come to you, Mr. Question. So, international accounting firm Deloitte is confident that the current appreciation of the local currency, that is the Ghana cedi, is due Bank of Ghana Monetary Policy Committee, is due to their committee's decision to stay put the policy rate. The firm believes that the unchanged policy rate will hold the rebound for a while, and in the long term, push inflation downwards after stabilizing prices on the market. In other stories, participating individuals and corporate entities of the domestic debt exchange program are likely to recover their delayed investment payments before the end of 2026, says the finance minister. And the debt restructuring resulting from the economic downturn caused by the COVID-19 has delayed, let me continue on page 4, I think, delayed investment payout of all those who invested in treasury notes and bonds issued by the government of Ghana. However, the ministry is expressing confidence that government's long-term economic policies would lead to an economic rebound and significant improvement in the country's macroeconomic indicators. I can't wait till all these macro indicators that they're preaching that we are on the path of recovery actually start reflecting in the pockets of Ghanaians, because really at the end of the day, that's what matters.
So the macro must become micro. That is where we feel it.
Yeah.
The macro, no, sometimes the macro seems so good, but the micro, I am basa.
Sometimes the gap between what they're telling you, it's like two realities, what they're telling you and what you are feeling, and you're wondering. The word keeps ringing in my head, gaslighting. So Ghana Stock Exchange bounces back strongly. Market capitalization hits 100.1 billion Ghana cedis. And the market capitalization on the Ghana Stock Exchange increased significantly to 100.1 billion Ghana cedis in October 2024. And this is compared with 73.9 billion Ghana cedis recorded in October 2023. And according to the Bank of Ghana, the increase in market capitalization was driven by appreciation in share prices underpinned by renewed investor confidence, particularly in the mining, IT, and finance sectors, and issuance of new shares by banks as part of the capital restoration effort. And these are just some stories I want to touch on the Economic Times. But there was a story I saw about 99.2% of our gold exports going to the United Arab Emirates. Let me just get, yes. So 99.2% of gold exported to 4 countries. Okay, UAE is top destination. And according to the trade statistics report from the Ghana Statistical Service, United Arab Emirates led the destination of gold exports, followed by Switzerland, South Africa, and India. Together, they accounted for 99.2% of gold exports from Ghana. And what did we do with the revenue? What did we do with the money? Let me throw this to you. Quick reflection.
But there's a quick one there. Yeah. When it comes to our gold exports, especially with, well, there's galamsey, so that's illegal in the first place. But there are times where certain countries have said that what they alone, for example, India, has exported from Ghana is more than what we declare as the total of our exports. Yeah. So we are very interesting people. But the UAE is one of the chief destinations. Yeah. But you see, there's a problem, little problem there before you come in. A lot of the gold that goes to the UAE comes from Ghana. They also have their own, But if you go there, a lot of our people go there to buy jewelry, trinkets, and the rest. And bring it back and sell. You see, that's the problem in the value chain. You are sending the raw thing there. Then they process it and sell it back to you at exorbitant prices. That thing must stop. Not that we must stop trading with them, but the chunk of it, we must utilize it, add value to it right here in Ghana. Else, If you would have got $30, you are getting $1.50, $2. Makes no sense.
I think it also calls for us to, as a country, look at not exporting this raw material, seeing how we can add value to it. It's not a good thing, like you say. It goes there, comes back, and it's exorbitant on the market. And I think that whatever we do as a country, let's grow our economy better. Let's not be dependent too much on other countries. I think also when it comes to the issue you spoke about, yes, the economy. I've read something from the Director of Research at the Institute of Economic Affairs, Dr. Kwachi, who says that if we want to grow well under President Mahama, he thinks that the president has to review the IMF program. I think the IMF program has, by large extent, stabilized our economy. It is time for us to do things right. I think that the economy was stopped in terms of what prompted people to vote for President John Mahama. And whatever he does, the economy should continue to remain his focal point. Because like you said, we'll talk about all these figures here and there. If the Ghanaian doesn't have the money in the pocket, if we cannot have the life that we want to, basic things, then I think that as politicians we've failed. The economy should be the top of the agenda. He should focus on getting the economy back, and then I'm sure that Ghanaians will be happy with his electoral victory.
I just want to chip in that while he's focusing on the economy, there are a lot of uncompleted projects that I hope he doesn't abandon, because that's a big problem we face in this country. One administration starts a project and the next one comes in, and because it's not his administration that started it, and he might probably not take credit for it, they abandon it. We can talk of so many housing projects, road infrastructure. There's so much in terms of wasting, states' resources. So that's another thing that the president-elect can also look at while focusing on the economy. Which projects can he complete so that we, whose monies have been pumped into these entities or these facilities and other things, can actually get some benefits from it?
I think on the campaign trail, President Mahama stated it time without number that he will continue with the projects. Those that he knows that are near to the benefit of the Ghanaian people, he will. And I think that we should all encourage him to do that, because if not, we'll grow to a point, come back, grow again, and the President Mahama will walk through whatever he has promised. And I'm sure that at the end of the day, he will be the first head of state that would complete projects and policies of his predecessor that have always inured to the benefit of the people.
But I think when he said that, he also made some caveats in terms of, finances and all of that. I think it's a good thing for him to complete the projects. One of the projects, some of us, and I've openly condemned the National Cathedral project. One of the projects, definitely, I'm not looking forward to any completion on, is the National Cathedral
Benjamin?
project.
It's for God. It's a promise that the current president made to God, and he's trying to fulfill it. Why are you against?
I could also very well equate it to some of the so-called prophets who said that God had said something to them emphatically. And unfortunately, I don't know which God told them that. It is what it is. But I feel, though, that, like has been said in the past, whether it's a medical facility, God knows we need more health facilities, and not only Agenda 111, because Agenda 111 is also something else he would have to look at. But whether it's an institution for learning or whatever, so many ideas have come. We must make use of that space and do something that will now come to serve the people of Ghana. That clearly is a failed project. I mean, after this number of years, if you've done any project management and you are looking at quality, time, resources, and all of that, no one needs to tell you that is a failed project. Where our money, millions of dollars of our money has been invested. But how do we resuscitate it? How do we resuscitate it?
Right.
So those are some of the bits.
Sakashi, more stories from you?
Yes, just one story on page 10 of the New Republic.
And let me just acknowledge this person, I'm sorry. There's someone who has kept sending in messages, one Prof. Isaac Ekwoko, that we should play the Otum 4 video. I don't think we can necessarily do that here. My producer has that discretion to decide. But I think if you went on social media and just looked for it, Otum 4, his speech or comments to Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in 2016, you would find the video. We may not necessarily have to play it here. He sent that message a number of times, so I just wanted to acknowledge him that this is it.
So talking about the economy, I want to us to look at page 10 of the New Republic. It says that plunderers of state resources must be held accountable. Murtala Mohammed. It says the Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Honorable Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, has called for the prosecution and accountability of leaders who have misappropriated the country's resources. Speaking to the media, Honorable Murtala emphasized that government should be focused on the betterment and development of the nation, not as an opportunity for theft and exploitation. And I'm reading this because, like we spoke about the economy, such things also raking some of the, I think that politicians from now onwards should note that we would be held accountable. If you are supposed to, as a leader, you are supposed to serve. Unfortunately, some of our politicians have taken that the other way around. So they don't serve, but they plunder the state. And I think that it is very, very prudent that we call on President Mahama to go after everybody that has misappropriated state funds, if not for good purposes. If those monies can be recovered and put back into the state, I think it will also help in growing our economy.
Okay, thank you. Something you said that brought to mind a poem I learned in, I think, first year in the university. Benjamin, you go ahead. I'll look for it. And it's called Ambassadors of Poverty. And I want to read it out when we conclude.
Oh, you even remind me, when you started talking about how Ghanaians had voted, I said I was thinking of a song.
Yeah.
Mary Dade, some pair worry me. Na fufona baena.
It's just, who said gaslighting is too much. They've awoken to the reality of what really is happening around them. But Benjamin Akaku.
I have the business analyst. Baumia's concession eased tensions nationwide. That's according to Mahama. And once more, let me salute the vice president. That was so much class. And we all have to celebrate him for that. No matter where you lie on the political spectrum, when the right things are done, you must acknowledge them. Give him his flowers. Akufo-Addo congratulates Mahama. Mahama is president-elect. NDC condemns post-election vandalism, calls for calm among supporters. I will hold the door open, Vice President-elect assures. Okay, I've not seen that. Let me just see what she's saying there. It's supposed to be on page 3. Now, the Vice President-elect, Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman, has reaffirmed her commitment to inclusivity and empowerment. Speaking after the party's presidential candidate, John Dramani Mahama, was declared the winner in the 2024 elections, she vowed to pave the way for others to succeed in her groundbreaking role. She stated that her historic election as the first female vice president in Ghana's history, the position was not about personal glory, but about creating opportunities for all. Interestingly, she's chalked a number of firsts. I don't want to get into too many of them, but two of the crucial ones. First female vice chancellor of a public university, and now first female vice president. Would we say the next first female?
We might.
Time will tell.
Time will tell.
Time will tell.
Time will tell.
I'm done with my paper.
Okay.
I'm also done here.
All right. I'll come back for your quick a summary of your thoughts while we conclude. But I found the poem I was looking for. Please, bear with me. Let me read this out. It's called Ambassadors of Poverty, a poem by P.O.C. Ume. Ambassadors of poverty are the corrupt masters of the economy, with their head abroad and their anus at home. Patriots in reverse order, determined merchants of loot, who boost the economy of their colonial order to impoverish brothers and sisters at home. Ambassadors of poverty are the saviors of the people, office loafers in the guise of workers, barons of incompetence with kleptomaniac fingers, encircling filaments, position occupants and enemies of service, locked in the corrosive war of corruption with their people's treasury and killing their future. Last line I'll do. Ambassadors of poverty are the dubious sit-tight patriots, frustrating the corporate will of their followers, the beleaguered, hungry, and famished owners of the land, people priced out of their conscience and power, incapacitated by destitution, unable to withstand the temptation of crispy mints and food aroma. Ambassadors of poverty.
Okay, apart
President-elect and his team, don't become ambassadors of poverty.
Absolutely.
Because that's what we've been experiencing. You know, making money from here, putting it abroad, while impoverishing us here in the country.
Apart from the use of language that I feel in some cases could have been...
But Charlie, poem. I mean, I
remember
this poem. Something you said that just brought it to mind. I remember when I was in school, I thought, this is too harsh. Yeah. But now I've lived the reality, and I know exactly what this man is talking about when he talks about ambassadors of poverty.
I remember that, actually. But I have a birthday message. But I saw something from Osajefo Kwesi, who says, talking about what I said, that Mahama must be up and doing right from the start. He must hit the ground running. He says if he doesn't, nothing will happen. Ghanaians were suffering and you guys couldn't fight for them, doing your paymaster's job. Wow. Ghanaians have spoken and we are going to speak again. Osajefo, and someone responded to him, Baba Aziz says, they have always criticized. Yeah. Some of you, sometimes your commentary, it's as distasteful as, I'll not add that. Okay. But if you don't watch something,
it's okay,
and you don't know what happens, don't speak from your neck. If you understand what I mean.
Okay, let's give
don't speak out of your
the
neck.
final word, and then we have to go.
But the fact that we criticize also doesn't mean we'll mollycoddle him. We'll not treat him with kid gloves. That will not happen. Final words, and then I'll do a birthday.
Very well. So when I got here, I heard Ben speak about Professor Jane Nana and her campaign. I think that the campaign she did was so different from all the other campaigns. President Mahama was doing his...
Well, actually, we have a bit more time, so we can...
Oh, we do?
Yes. Okay. So we're going to 7:30, so we can relax and have...
So President Mahama had his campaign team. The vice candidate also had her campaign team. The general secretary had his own. The chairman of the party had his own. But I'm so enthused about Professor Nana's campaign team, because at a point we were asking, she was not visible. And so I had a cause to speak to Dr. Sebefia.
Okay.
So he explained the strategy that they had, and I think the strategy worked. We should salute her for such a brilliant initiative, how she got to the people. Hers was not having big rallies or having big encounters. She went to those that mattered. So I want to salute this morning the Honorable Alex Sebefia, Erica J., Ajeni Mboatin, those that were on her team. They did a great job. And I am believing, as a Ghanaian and as a father to daughters, that this feat chalked by Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman gives me hope that my daughters one day would also get to that high office. My daughters one day would want to achieve the feat that she has achieved. And I think as a country, we should be very proud of this moment. It's a brilliant one, and we should all be happy about it.
Okay, since we have time, let me just read the headlines. Ben, you want to come in?
No, you go ahead.
The Daily Searchlight. On election 2024, Cash fails to return NPP in power as John Mahama, NDC, coast to earth-shaking victory. Alan Tremantin congratulates John Mahama. I don't think we should completely do away with Alan Tremantin and his great transformational plan and some of the policies he proposed, especially in terms of industrialization. I think he's got some great plans and policies there that the NDC can incorporate in the planning of how they intend to recover the economy.
I agree a lot. In fact, I was thinking exactly that yesterday. We tend to make politics a zero-sum game in this country. I win everything, you win nothing. It's I win everything, you lose everything. That's why our politics is what it is. If we make it more involving, and I heard some of our panelists yesterday, I don't know whether it was from Studio 997 or here, saying that, listen, even as the NDC has won, if you realize that, look, in the MPP, there's someone, me, if I were president, and Kojo Banredu of blessed memory. Wow. Fantastic gentleman.
Yes.
And if I were president and Kojo Banredu were alive, I would give him a position.
He was just something.
Because his character and the work he did, whether at the finance ministry or elsewhere, spoke for him. I think we have to evolve and get to that point where it is beyond, yes, the party people worked and people would want certain things. I'm not saying that you can't do some things, but I'm saying that in crucial areas where you know that this person is not a party member, but this person can do something, do it. And let's stop being too partisan. It's killing us.
I agree.
Mr. Koshi, what's your take on the matter?
I think the Honorable Alan Tremantin, when you listen to him expound on this one district, one factory policy that he championed. Everybody should know that such a brain should not go waste. Yeah. We have to bring him on board. Let's forget.
Do you think that's something that John Mahama will
The
do?
President Mahama, I know, will do it.
Okay.
If he has to do it, he will do it. President Mahama wants to grow the country. Remember the Senchi Forum where he brought everybody together. Yeah. This is a man who wants the best for the country. So if it means that he brings Alan Tremantin on board, trust me, he will do that.
Okay, we're looking forward to it. It looks like an interesting 4 years ahead.
Can I sneak in one last?
Yeah, go ahead.
Isaac Okuoku comes through with another one. He says the Kenke should come to 1 cedi. The dollar should come to 4 cedis. If he doesn't do it after 8 January, then we shall see in this country. That will not happen.
8
It
January.
is unrealistic and it will not happen. Like I said, it takes time to acquire an addiction. It takes time to let go of an addiction. You can't have a problem created over 8 years and solve it in, what, 1 day?
Yeah. It's impossible.
I mean, while we are saying that we'll hold him to account, hold his feet to the fire of accountability, you can't say this. This
also,
is
hashtag Stop Galamsey Now is still on, I believe.
That's
And
for
there's
that
a story
one.
here. More than 150 people rescued from abandoned gold mine. Again, we are appealing to leadership that we have to stop Galamsey. Now, more than 150 illegal miners have been rescued from an abandoned mine in South Africa's eastern. Oh, I thought this was in Ghana. This is in South Africa. Okay, police say 3 bodies were recovered earlier this week. It tells
Is it from that same mine?
Yeah, the same one.
You are in South Africa, no?
Yeah,
Is it from that same mine? So there are people still trapped down there?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think...
And you see the position they adopted.
Yeah.
You are doing illegal stuff. Almost in fear.
I think at a point we all felt that the government of South Africa was not looking at it from a humanitarian perspective. But they were clear that it's illegal.
Yeah.
So they won't go there to rescue.
And it's something they have said time without, and that is a disused mine.
Yes.
And they decided, I think hundreds of them.
Yeah. And these
were
are
trapped.
all people from Zimbabwe, from Malawi. And the government has time without number spoken about this illegal mining thing. So I think that now that they've been rescued, the law will take its course. And we should learn from it as a country. These are things that we should not engage ourselves in.
If Galamsey in Ghana is a leadership problem, then one of the legacies that maybe we are appealing to the president-elect to, give us would be to end Galamsey. We're talking about water and food that contain cyanide and heavy metals that, are non-biodegradable. They remain in our body and cause so much trouble. But this is all that time will allow us for. We didn't get your final word, so maybe this is a good time to do that.
Well, again, I just want to thank the Ghanaian people for believing in the NDC, for believing in President John Dramani Mahama, and for giving him such a resounding victory at the polls. One thing is clear, that the Ghanaian people will not forgive the NDC. I go back to the Otumfuo clip where Otumfuo said, "Omo de come and ye bufu and abano." So we'll say the same thing to President Mahama. If we fail as a party, ours will be worse than the MPP.
Okay.
But my birthday, and before I say that though, Charlie, the gap, it was gapping. The gap was gapping. At a point, I was almost in disbelief.
Yeah.
Shock. Professor Bwedi was here the last time, and he was saying, we had an interaction of the UPSA, and he said something, and I told him, look, in this election, it's not going to be close. Whoever wins, it's not going to be close. But even I couldn't have seen that the gap would be like this.
Right. Ben, we have to go.
Anyway.
Thank you so much, Mr. Benjamin Kofi Kwashi, for joining us. You have a birthday. Can you do that quickly?
Yes,
so we
I do. Lisa Noel Okran, you turned 9 on the 9th, which is yesterday. So belated birthday to you. May the good Lord bless you. May you excel in everything you touch. Lisa Noel Okran. And to my niece in Kumasi, Nanekia, a very good morning to you. I know you've not heard from me in a while. God bless and keep you and take care of yourself. That's to Nanekia. And I guess that's how we're sewing it up, sweetie.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Benjamin Kofi Kwashi. He is chair of NDC South Africa Council of Elders, and he joined us in the studio. Ben and I are coming back with more on the AM show, but sports comes up next with Mukhtar Nabil Abdullahi. Stay.
AM Sports here with me, Muftaru Nabila Abdullahi. Ghana has decided John Dramani Mahama is returning to the office of the president. And one area many sportsmen would be interested in is who becomes his sports minister. A few weeks ago, we had a conversation with former Minister of Youth and Sports, Nilante van der Poel, and he says that he would wish John Dramani Mahama gives him an opportunity to lead the sports ministry once again. According to him, if he's handed that opportunity, he will sanitize the sports space.
If I become the Minister of Sports in 2025, I will sanitize sports, GF. I will sanitize football once again. I'm not happy with what we're doing. I'm not happy. There are so many things wrong with our football. And unless we take bold steps to sanitize the system and take decisions that will inure to the benefit of the people who are doing football and the footballers, and not businessmen and Shylocks, football will not grow. The people who play the game, the people who invest their money, the people who invest their time in football should enjoy football. Not people who sit behind and turn footballers and then people who do football like poultry chickens, and then they only, anytime they desire to have them, they pick them up and then do their stew, their soup, and enjoy themselves. No, it won't happen. I've been a footballer before. I've been a sportsman before. I will fight against anybody who desire to exploit any sportsman.
Are you suggesting that the current system is exploiting sportsmen?
Yes, yes.
Professor Jonathan Korte, who is the Associate Professor of Physiotherapy at the University of Ghana, he has called on government to invest in sports. According to him, it is a huge industry with huge returns when the right investments are made.
I say that, look, sports is actually a very big industry.
We can all fit in.
And I'm surprised that government after government, minister after minister, have not found it important to actually invest in that area. If you invest, the ripple effect will be massive. And we'll get the results that you want. Because once you invest in it, you are going to unearth talent. Yeah. You will unearth potential. So why don't we want to invest? We want a quick fix. Oh, we are going for a tournament next year. 2 weeks before you go and camp, and you want to go and win gold. It doesn't work that way. Invest in it now, and the results would come. It's a big industry.
Ghana's Black Galaxies will be coming up against Nigeria, seeking to secure qualification to the next edition of the CHAN tournament. Ghana's legend Abedi Pele met the Black Galaxies and encouraged them. He described them as a tactical team who are the backbone of the next generation of Ghana's seniors national team. Ghana's Thomas Partey, his foundation organized a football competition to give scouts an opportunity of selecting the best talents that could grow and feed the next national teams. According to his spokesperson, Samuel Zika, this is an opportunity for the next generation of talents to be identified. My colleague, Elon Banana Fiamakwa, was there and has details in this report.
Before the event, which began on December 2nd and ended on December 5th at the Tuba Strotef Park in Accra, brought together 12 youth teams from across the country to showcase their talent to scouts in attendance. The initiative, backed by the Thomas Partey Foundation and JJ Sports Managers, is expected to become a key feature in Ghana football's calendar. The thrilling final saw Dansoman side, the Wise 11, claim victory over Kowa Naso after a tense penalty shootout, securing the first. Before the event, which began on December 2nd and ended on December 5th at the Tuba Strotef Park in Accra, brought together 12 youth teams from across the country to showcase their talent to scouts in attendance. The initiative, backed by the Thomas Partey Foundation and JJ Sports Managers, is expected to become a key feature in Ghana football's calendar. The thrilling final saw Dansoman side, the Wise 11, claim victory over Kowa Naso after a tense penalty shootout, securing the first ever championship title. scouts from 8 European clubs, including Chelsea and Arsenal, were present, offering aspiring players a rare opportunity to showcase their skill on a global stage. Agents of Arsenal midfielder Thomas Partey, Jose Daniel Jimenez, and partner Emilio Rodriguez lauded the initiative.
For me, all the teams that in the tournament is a good team, and for me, all the players is working very hard for this tournament, and only can say thank you for all.
There is a very good level, so there is a lot of players. There are a lot of players. It's important because all the scouts are looking that it's not only 1 or 2 players that are very, very good. That the medium level, there are top 5 players, so they are thinking about that this tournament is possible to bring a lot of players to Europe, and for me it's the most important that it's not only a tournament for 1 or 2 players. There are a lot of players that can play in Europe if they continue his progression.
Public Relations Officer for Thomas Partey, Samuel Ziga, spoke about the purpose of the tournament, while expressing his satisfaction with what he witnessed.
Well, basically, the whole idea around this tournament is to unearth talent in Ghana. It's a way of giving back to society, championed by JJ Sports Managers, agents of Thomas Partey. That's the name, Thomas Partey Tournament. I mean, it's been an incredible 4-day tournament so far, climaxing today. Lots of talents have displayed their skills and dexterity on the field. It's been intensive. I mean, the intensity, the aggression, the passion they've shown on the field has been massive. And I must say the scouts from the top 8 European clubs are impressed. Like the agent said, the idea is to take as many players they could get their hands on to Europe, not just a few guys, but maximize their potential, make sure that they get players who match the European market, and I think they are on track for that. Personally, I've been impressed with the general showcase of this whole thing.
Ziga also revealed future plans for the tournament.
Yeah, this is the first of its kind, unprecedented. There are plans to make sure that we host it twice a year, twice in every calendar year, to make sure that we are able to, cover a lot of space, to get a lot of people or get a lot of players on board en route to Europe.
This is the AM Show. Welcome to our big stories. Now, the Joint Transitional Team is beginning work as early as Wednesday, the 12th of December, as President-elect John Dramani Mahama prepares to take office on the 7th of January 2025. Meanwhile, the incoming president has urged rampaging youth to channel their frustration into the positive enterprise of resetting and rebuilding the nation. This morning, we find out from you, of course. We'll be heading out there to interact with some of you to find out what your expectations are. But in the studio as well, we have his spokesperson, his spokeswoman, Joyce Bawah-Mogtari. And you can tell from her mood that she's very excited. Good morning, Joyce.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
And good morning to Sweetie Abochi as well.
Come on. Yes, good morning, Ben.
I'm looking at the spectacles, the Westwood spectacles and the white. And Sweetie, would you like to start this? Let's do the analysis.
The last time we had a conversation, or it was on Women Power Politics, and you were so confident that the Ghanaian people would do this, that now that they've done it. How does it feel? Also congratulating you, female spokesperson for the campaign team, and our very first vice presidential woman elected to be vice president of this country. But let's start with how you're feeling this morning.
I'm feeling very humbled. And I think it's taken me quite a while for everything to actually make sense to me. And as one of those who started to serve Mr. Mahama long before we even considered the notion of him actually standing again, I look back on all the years and I can only give thanks to the good Lord, I believe you heard him yesterday, and I think when he actually spoke about the fact that it was a very humbling experience, and that he thanks the good Lord for setting him up a meal even in the presence of his enemies. And you know, this is a verse that all of us grew up on. I mean,
it's the way he paused in between, and everyone
exactly,
continued in their minds.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think it sums it up, you know. I think it hasn't been an easy journey. It's been fraught with a lot of difficulties and challenges. And I believe that he started right from 2012 when he won that other election in the unfortunate aftermath of the demise of Professor John Fifi Evans Atta Mills whilst in office. You know, he had actually served on the unexpired term of Professor Mills's presidency and then gone on even to win the 2012 election. But I'm sure, as history will have it, all of us know what happened then. He was held to ransom for 9 months, and the legitimacy of that particular win was literally challenged and undermined from the get-go. And so for him to go on his own strength, to contest in 2020, take Ghana to its very first hung parliament, was within itself historic.
Right.
But to go on, to win subsequently, and take a commanding lead in a hotly contested election, this is something that I believe has probably never happened before, at least not since the inception of the 1992 Constitution.
Right.
And look, Sweetie and Ben, I think that I feel this enormous responsibility, that this is not something that has come merely as a gift to John Mahama or the NDC, but that Ghanaians have actually spoken out in a way that none of us even anticipated, that this whole 56.7% win is actually, 56.7 is actually...
Well, officially for now, 56.55.
Good. It's actually,
unless we add the
yes, it's actually like, I would say, basically, you know, everything after 50.1 is a gift from God. You know, right. It's almost as if God wanted to rearrange everything. And Ghanaians have actually passed a vote of no confidence in the New Patriotic Party and President Akufo-Addo. And that is how I see it.
Okay.
Quick thought. Did you expect a margin like this? Almost 1.7 million votes. And counting, because we still have the 9 constituencies.
You know, I heard that our opponents, as soon as they got to the 1.7 million mark, they abandoned their coalition because they knew that there really was nothing else they could do. But let me be very honest with you, that even for us on the night, I remember, you know, we had a large screen in front of us. It was a video that went viral, and we had Mr. Mahama walk into the room with us, and everybody was wondering. And then there was a side where you had the final result, and then there's also the individual results on the other side. And then he kept asking, is this figure going to change? And to be honest with you, all night long, the figure didn't change until the EC chairperson declared him winner with more than the largest number of the votes. And, you know, a very historic win. You know, let me tell you something. We deserve this win, Ben. And make no mistake, I don't want anybody to try to water down what has happened, because historic as it may be, unprecedented as it may be, it is also a repudiation of the impunity, of the arrogance, of the disrespect, and the failure of the Akufo-Addo administration. You know, look, there is something that actually used to irk me a lot, that people sometimes forget even, that the 4 years of John Mahama vis-a-vis what has happened over the last 8 years, sometimes you can't even compare, and that is a reality. Because even though President Akufo-Addo had this singular opportunity given to him by the good people of Ghana, I think that he took it for granted. He got too comfortable too early. He refused any form of advice or support. He even refused to listen to people and listen to a democratically elected president talking about his predecessor, a one-term president, refusing to hand over to someone I've beaten, and how we should leave him with Dumso, and we should allow the Dumso and failures to stay with him, and how the economy will bounce back. But he knows, you know, listen, we left behind 126 E-blocks at different stages of completion. President Akufo-Addo didn't complete them. He even told the chief in the Volta region that they didn't vote for him. He told the chief in Wenchi that they didn't vote for him. He told the chief in Kwasa that they didn't vote for him. He told the chief in the Western region that they didn't vote for him. He took it out on everybody who stood up towards him and told them in no uncertain terms that he was not going to countenance any form of criticism or voices of dissent. I think that Ghanaian voters have come of age, that look at what has happened in Parliament, it also tells you that the acrimony of the hung Parliament was also something that Ghanaians found dissatisfactory,
right,
to say the least.
So, just on the back of what you've said, I like the way you're going because it also points to the goodwill you now have. If Akufo-Addo got a margin of 800,000 the first time, it was goodwill.
Yeah.
By the second time, it had been whittled down to about 500,000.
It was less than even that.
Still goodwill. Now, if you add 800 to 500, you get 1.3 million. Your win is more than that. It means the goodwill of the people, whether on the back of what performance they felt Mahama could bring, because I've said that he's no saint, but he says he's learned from his lessons. It also comes with a burden of responsibility, madam. You've won 13 out of 16 regions. Even in the 3 regions that were won,
we still have representation.
The Savannah region, the gap was about 30 or so thousand.
Yeah.
In the eastern region, for the first time, I was shocked.
Yeah.
In the Ashanti region, almost 700,000 votes. That puts on your shoulders a responsibility like I don't feel maybe since Nkrumah has been placed on any government's shoulders. Are you ready?
Beyond ready. Beyond ready. Because in terms of experience, I believe that nobody comes to the table with more experience than John Mahama. With the level of interaction, with the level of composure, with the level of respect that Mr. Mahama has for the good people of Ghana, I am confident that people bought into 2 things. That this is a man that we need to lead us into the next phase. Secondly, sometimes there's something we forget. I think, and this is a very personal perspective, that Mr. Mahama's own sense of modesty is something that has played a very key role in this election. What is the biggest thing that actually bothers Ghanaians at this time? Is the ill health of the economy. So when people see a man whose own life example portends a man who is compassionate, who is sensitive to the plight of everybody, who appreciates what it is. Look, these very interesting interventions that Mr. Mahama has made in the course of even the campaigning period, in the course of his time in opposition, the contributions that he's made to our society in many diverse ways. And sometimes, because most of them are not, you know, not all the spotlights were on him all the time. There were even times when, because some people interpreted these things to mean that they were self-serving, maybe they didn't receive the needed attention. Remember in the course of COVID, for example, when Mr. Mahama convincingly told all of us that Ghana was already at a crossroads, even before the pandemic. And remember when he said that the economy was actually already at the ICU. But most people didn't pay attention. The reason was simple, that as a former president, remember that he would get information that you and I would probably never get. And issues to do with the Bank of Ghana in particular, and matters to do with printing of monies without due process was already evident. But still, people didn't want to believe it. Remember the charade of the OSP and the office of OSP and the things that President Akufo-Addo said at the time. Make no mistake, better a man who is sincere about his own feelings than a man who refuses to take responsibility even when the feelings are pointed out to him. I think this is what we have, and this is why Mr. Mahama over the years has gained enormous credibility. My brother, take the matters of investigations, for example. Look at the sort of acrimony that accompanied these conversations, because it was not born out of any genuine intention. It was born out of a destroying an image of someone that you deemed as a threat. And so they took it so personal. And invariably, while they spent, so look at Bawumia's campaign, for example. I keep coming back to that point. What did Dr. Bawumia say to you or anybody listening to him that made any sense? I mean, digitalization is not an event. It's a process. It takes a long time to develop. It takes a long time to build up.
Right.
But he tried in every breath. It was always about John Mahama and why we should leave him as a former president. You see, sometimes be careful what you wish for.
Careful what you wish for. I'll be going to Sweetie shortly, but just know that you see how friendly it is today, and we're giving you a warm embrace.
Oh, you guys have always given me a warm embrace.
Abana ya the boy in Chino.
Oh.
And no one ya the
Me
boy.
say,
So always keep that in your mind.
Debbie, you see, let me tell you something that I will refuse to accept on this occasion only.
keep that in mind.
You see, I don't want anybody to try to take away the fact that JM suffered enormously in the hands of propagandists, that he was also maligned in ways that we ought not to have tolerated. I also think that, yes, I agree with you, that he wasn't necessarily perfection personified. But there's one thing that we all agree with, that John Mahama is a decent individual. And that with the right support, John Mahama will deliver on his promises to you. With the right support, John Mahama will not talk down to you or disrespect you. You know, look, I say something about our leaders. A touch of humility is always helpful. A little bit of candor is also helpful. Taking responsibility. You see, I think sometimes Mahama takes too much responsibility. And I hope that that is something he will work on as an individual. That he should split the responsibility or employ people to do it. And if they don't, find someone else who will take it.
Sweetie, permit me to do this. Just because you've touched on humility, I think it was a class act by the vice president to concede the way he did. Timely, both of you knew where this was going. And by doing that, he made the tensions simmer down to a certain point, even though the EC had not come through. I saw Sami Jemfi's post. When he did that, I had a lot more respect for him for taking that up. How do you feel about that right before Sweetie comes in?
Well, I mean, look, at the end of the day, when you take such a walloping, better you don't prolong it. And I think in the face of such humiliation, because it was a complete annihilation, a complete disaster of an outing, I think he really had no options. And on this occasion, what was he trying to do? Whatever little credibility he had left had to be salvaged very quickly for his own personal good. And I think that's what he was doing. You know, look, how did we all...
But it is still an act worthy of recognition.
You heard Mr. Mahama, and I was there when Mr. Mahama took the phone call. Indeed, when the call came through, it was my phone that the call came to, asking for which number to speak to Mr. Mahama on, because the Vice President wanted to address the press at 9 a.m. And in his speech, Mr. Mahama graciously admitted that Dr. Bawumia had shown statesmanship. You go into battle, you go into a game, you lose miserably. The earlier you actually concede, the better, especially knowing the conduct of the campaign and the things he himself said that, of course, suddenly appeared not to make sense to anybody.
Right.
Right. You said the Ghanaian voter has come of age. There was a time that the now President-elect John Dramani Mahama was celebrated as a young leader in this country. Now he's not so young anymore. And the new entrants, we have seen a lot of young people who have just won parliamentary seats. You can talk about Edem Agbana, Eli Makrugu, even Baba Sadiq and the rest. I would wager you, although I do not know for sure the fact or the figures in terms of the demographics of who voted, out of that over 60% of people, I would wager you that a huge number of those voters are young people. How youthful should we expect this government to be?
Well, I think Mr. Mahama has spoken at length about the fact that we have a very great mix of very youthful people. You could see even from our campaign, for example, that the campaign was largely powered by many young people. And indeed, you know, there's one thing about the NDC. I mean, look at our General Secretary, for example. Look at our National Communications Officer, for example. Look at our youth organizer and our organizers. You know what I mean? They're relatively middle-level kinds of people. And so when you look at the level of the persons coming into Parliament, it speaks volumes. And you know, let me make no mistake, and Ben said it beautifully, the National Democratic Congress has enormous broad-based appeal. And I remember this song even from when I was a child, and my father's home was a hotbed for a flurry of political activity, broad-based the best. It was one of the songs for one of the then very active political parties at the time, UNC, I think. So what it actually tells me is that a broad-based political party like the NDC has come to stay. The margin of this victory is also an event that tells us that people have enormous expectations. I also believe that when you look around the world now, young people have actually started to play very key roles. Same will happen in Ghana because we are all part of this committee of nations. And so look at the averages in terms of age. I also have one thing that I say to the young people, and every young person working closely will tell you, I've always told them, be sure that when we repose this confidence in you, that you do not let the side down.
Right.
Remember what happened with the YEA when Akufo-Addo, in the course of the presidency of Mr. Akufo-Addo, when the young person who was put there decided to take all the resources for their personal use. No investigation came out of it. The subsequent one went to contest on a seat, and we saw how much money was expended. So we don't want young people who will come into office just because of personal self-aggrandizement.
Right.
There is a raison d'etre for this level of confidence in the NDC. And largely, the number of youth encouraging other youth played a huge role and was probably a critical motivational factor.
Right.
And talking about age, I think that age is a number depending on where you sit. But also we must, look, unemployment rates are probably higher than what we know. In terms of people who have gotten multidimensionally poorer, there's more women and young people than adults. And then when you look at the level of pensioners, that age bracket may be 70 and above in Ghana. It's not, our life expectancy is also quite not very, very good relatively. So I think that you look at the economy of scales. Sweetie, you are yourself a very young person. So I would expect that all of you will work very hard to keep this government on its toes.
Let's stay on young people for a bit. We saw lots of young people maybe misinterpreting what the NDC meant by being vigilant, putting their lives on the line, preventing military personnel from entering polling stations. We saw young people pour out on the streets. What is your diagnosis of why we saw pockets of violence or obstruction at the various polling stations? Also because we had seen messages from the camp of the NDC asking or entreating people to be vigilant, move to the collation centers, be vigilant, go out there, turn on your body camera. Now we now know that they weren't in fact actual body cameras. But what's your diagnosis of why we experienced that?
No, let me be very, very honest and emphatic that we don't expect any violence. And I'm sure that Sami Jemfi has spoken, our national chairman has spoken, our general secretary and many other leading members within the party. I would like to actually join them to say that we expect everybody to remain calm. On the other hand, sweetie, this was an election that we were actually the underdogs. We had all experienced what happened in Ayawaso West Wagon, for example, which was historically a very violent election or by-election. We saw what happened in Asin North, for example, which was likewise on a similar scale. Why do you think our chairman, the Honorable Asidun Ketia, insisted at some point that we would only commit to the peace pact if we had the IGP, the Chief Justice, and all these other key governance agencies being a part of the process? You know, look, for months, they told us they had a two-region agenda. So what was the two-region agenda? To be sure that just the Eastern region and Ashanti region could keep them in power. Then they came down to say, look, we had a plan, a very good plan to win this election at all costs. We heard their youth organizer very, very aggressively. And people who swore that if we lost this election, they would give their lives just as a way. Look, we talk about rigged elections, okay? The ballot stuffing, the overvoting, the pink sheets that people don't sign, and all of these discrepancies that happen, the fraud, that is one thing. The other thing is the attempts to suppress the choice of the voter.
Is that why we saw those
incidents? Not incidents. Why those instructions went out about vigilance? If you notice, in the last week of our campaign, we told everybody to be vigilant. For the first time, we had trained a large retinue of polling agents. All of us went for this training. And let me tell you, former appointees, the lawyers within the party, the professionals group, various categories of persons, too many to mention. We had a large retinue deployed across the 16 regions of Ghana. And when you see the result today, what does it tell you?
But are you concerned that because of that, that rhetoric of being vigilant, that is why we saw
that may be, that's what I'm saying, it may be a huge contributory factor. But ask yourself, the 500,000 pre-printed ballot papers, where did they come from?
Yeah.
So the vigilance delivered that.
Joyce.
They attempt to take some of the seats over, like for example, Domiko Apenya, you can tell the vigilance worked. Look at what happened with Baba Siddiq, for example. The vigilance worked. You know, look, I know that there have been some excesses in some places. I also admit that our leaders have actually appealed for calm. And when we speak about a body calm, it just says, I was at a Adenta, for example, towards the end of polls, for example. The place was very dark, not even very well lit. So the idea was that people could come in with their touch lights. But fortunately, they brought in these two very huge generators and then saved the day. So look, we live in a country where these things happen. My brother, I think that the assurances we needed going into that day of election ought to have come from President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
Point made. Just briefly on the point of vigilance, I think we need to move the conversation forward. You say some of these things have happened before, and indeed they have. This is not the first time we are seeing such incidents of rampaging and looting, at least to some minuscule level. But the point is, these actions are criminal.
That is the second
No, hold for me. Looting and other things, they are not what we want to see on the back of any electoral win. My proposal, and I shared it in the course of the news review, that we like talking about peace pacts. We should also put in there that the political parties, whether the National Peace Council or some other entity, when you are signing, you also sign off that if you win, regardless of who wins, you start telling your supporters not to be overzealous, overexcited, and engage in these activities. In fact, my proposal is that you see how both of you, especially the NDC and the MPP, you invested heavily in media ads, even right here on this platform. My proposal to you is that you also invest in ads that communicate to your supporters that if we win, don't do this, don't do that. What do you think? I think that is one of the ways we can use to, because you focus so much on the message and the campaign, but these things we know happen, especially after every 8-year cycle.
Ben, you see, I don't want to necessarily, I told you, nothing will dampen our momentous win on this occasion.
But this has been a little blot on the win.
Don't worry, no, I disagree with you entirely. And remember that we've had a lot worse under President Akufo-Addo and Bawumia.
See, but
let me finish. Let me finish. You guys want to try and change the narrative. I would disagree with you entirely. I think that, you see, sometimes it is why Akufo-Addo has failed as he has. Let's speak truth to power. State categorically that a lot of the violence that has been occasioned over the years were actually spearheaded by the New Patriotic Party. Look, we were
underdogs. Does it justify this?
Wait, let me finish. You know, I know how to answer questions. If you're my teacher, you'll agree with me. The second part is that we are evolving. And certainly, we saw people snatching toilets. Have you forgotten? We saw what happened to Nanka Bruce in Jubilee House, in the compound, the seat of government. You saw people removed from their vehicles. Look, we
saw what happened to a police officer
at the... I have tried very hard. Yes, but let me tell you, Mr. Mahama, as an individual, and you and I know, is a man who is enormously geared towards peace. And I know that these things are happening because our boys saw what happened in the past. But let me tell you that this party will make sure that the unnecessary things, like, for example, what happened in Tamale, for example, was condemned. And the Honorable Idrisu flew back there. And you saw that calm was restored. Same will happen in Accra. What happened in the case of them going to the NADMO office, for example? Yes, these are things we will control. And for the purposes of the fact that our democracy is evolving, and because it is also such a nascent democracy, look, some of the reasons why people who were not even NDC per se went out there to endorse the candidacy of John Mahama is also because we don't want a repetition of the last 8 years. On that score, I will agree with you. And I will entreat all of our party elders and even our supporters to remain calm. Don't forget that even in most of the cases, City, there's a lot of provocation too by the persons who have lost. You see, whilst their boss has actually been a very good loser, the people down there, there's still a lot of aggression. You saw what happened in Damango, for example. You know that Mutawakilu has no powers to do something like that. He has no resources to do something like that. He has no apparatus to do something like that. Look, that is a fact. But if people attack you, if people try to take away a legitimate win, like you are trying to take away and using a word like a blot, please, Delta forces were a proper blot. What happened yesterday is something that a lot of our younger people...
I agree with everything you've said.
Yes.
All I am saying is what is good for the goose is good for the gander. And what is wrong, two wrongs don't make a right.
You didn't even beat those ones enough. Now Ghanaians have beaten them for us. So I will not allow you to take this victory.
Okay, let's
I will still give the victory to the good people of Ghana for making sure that this is a referendum on the failed administration of President Akufo-Addo and his vice president.
Let's make tracks. There are many areas we want to get into.
Before we talk about transition, what do you think the expectation of Ghanaians as we speak of, you know, the incoming government and its administration? Now we have a female vice president in terms of that bid and a former president re-elected. What do you think Ghanaians are really looking forward to from this administration before we talk about how you're transitioning?
You know, Ghanaians would definitely want less corruption. They want better governance. Ghanaians want the constitution amendment process to take place as quickly as possible.
Is that top of your list?
I like the sound of that point.
Oh, yes. Yeah. It ought to be. And look, I've told you that I want to be a trustee of our success when the annals are being written. And so I hope that this large supreme lead in Parliament will be put to good use. Yeah. Because the unnecessary rancor is gone. My brothers and sisters, the gentleman who told us that he would refuse to sit with the minority, today returns without a caucus from the central region. That is within itself telling. And Mr. Mahama better know that he is on the cusp of making a history in a way that nobody has ever done. That history must not be lost on him. And that history must be something that impacts all of us greatly. This constitution has served us well. But for the experience of the Right Honourable Speaker of Parliament, the Right Honourable Alban Bagbin, maybe, who knows? Do you know how this election would have gone if he hadn't stood firm? At this point in time, Ben, the whole level of interest in our democracy is at an all-time low for two reasons. There's very little trust for the judicial system. It is why we didn't take any of our issues with the EC to court. Because we knew what would happen. And we saw what happened. So please, I told you that nobody would take this victory away from John Mahama, Nana Jino Pokwajima, or the NDC.
Let's clarify. No one is trying to do that.
You are trying to, because you use the word a blot. You know, that one I would disagree with any day. You know that normally I pick your thoughts on a lot of things. But on this one, I disagree. I think, leave the criticism where it did. After they told you that they were leaving doing so with the former president, today he's president-elect. And make no mistake, God gave him the results Akufo-Addo got in 2016, gave him the results Akufo-Addo got in 2020, and added extra. And I know that that is very humbling, even for John Dramani Mahama. And he knows the exigency of the day. And I believe that he will do an excellent job, given the responsibility.
Sweetie Abachi took us to Parliament. A lot of our viewers have been asking about the current state of the parliamentary seats, even before I pose my question, because we're looking at about 90 thereabouts for the MPP, some 187, as has been discussed, for the NDC. And I hear there are some 3 independent candidates, including Kwame A+, in there. Let's talk about those dynamics, because there are those 9 constituencies that the EC still awaits declarations on. Yeah. From your figures, in the end, how many seats specifically do you have?
What I gather is that we are doing about 185 seats presently, or momentarily.
185, yes, as of 185,
now? As of now, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And
in those 9 constituencies, what's happening?
Well, in those other 9 constituencies, there's a lot of discrepancies, and don't forget that until the results are actually gazetted, you can't even go to court on them. Exactly. Yeah. So for now, I'm sure this impasse will probably continue for a while longer. I believe that Baba Sadiq has been declared the rightful winner. Yes. I've heard that the Honorable Patrick Boama says he's going to take it to court, but yes, that will come only after the Gazette has been issued.
That will have to go to the High Court.
Exactly. In terms of Dom Kwabenya, I believe that the matter is settled. I haven't heard anything from Michael Kwe, but let me tell you something I observed, that everything was done to stem the win by the Honorable Elekpilim Akurugu after all the hard work she had done. Note that this is the one constituency whose member of parliament jumped ship for months, was nowhere to be found. And yet people still believe that the MPP deserves to win.
Let me give you some interesting context. I was there on a citizen's microphone, or constituency lens, I think. Yes. I was in Dominica.
Were you not surprised?
And they actually did say that, yes, the same for the very first time. I didn't believe it because it's an NPP stronghold. So I think it puts what you're saying in perspective, that the people really want a
let me
change
tell
from
you
that constituency.
that there was a lot of arrogance on the side of the New Patriotic Party, a lot of disrespect. Their whole attitude. I mean, for crying out aloud, look at what the Honorable Afenyo Markins said about Nana Jane on that platform. Look at the things our Second Lady Samira Bawumia said about John Dramani Mahama. And I believe, Madam Samira, if you genuinely believe in Ghana, you owe John Mahama an apology, an unqualified apology, to insult a man whose contemporary is your father, is un-Ghanaian and unknown to our culture. And I will continue to say this until she does the needful. And I'm delighted. And today I bow and thank the good Lord that he has brought them to their knees. That governance is not an easy responsibility.
Right.
And we ought to know that it is not for children either.
Okay.
If you are immature, don't go into government. And when Ghanaians elect you at that age and make you a second lady, you ought to show decorum.
We'll be talking about transition shortly, but you speak for President-elect John Dramani Mahama. There are some schools of thought that Alan Kyerematen and some of the political actors that we've seen who have proven that they have some great policies and, you know, great character that could maybe augur well for this government should not be left out of the new government that you'll be forming. Do you think we'll see that happening when Alan Kyerematen or somebody else from the NPP, if the NDC thinks they qualify in terms of what you are looking for to form a government?
You know,
also on the back of that, you know, 120 days contracts that we have with Mr. Mahama.
I mean, listen here, okay? I think one of the biggest failings of this current administration is the sheer size of government. You saw the letter circulating that Bank of Ghana had actually issued employment letters to people. Excellent. You know, that's what I mean. So I know that there have been many categories that people can serve in. And note that Mr. Mahama is one individual who cuts across genuinely a lot of people. Him and Mr. Alan Kyerematen have been friends, they've been colleagues. I've known occasions when he's even picked his thoughts on a few things. I know Alan Kyerematen is very big on employment.
Yes, and industrialization.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so I do know that he has a lot to offer us. And
so will that happen?
Well, even if he's not serving as a formal member of government,
yeah,
why not? I'm sure he'll be happy to help Mr. Mahama to at least reduce the burdens on people. Look, my sister, poverty is real. You know, I've gone the length and breadth of this country at least 4 times since I've been working closely with John Mahama. Yeah. Things are tough. Let's be humble about it. And so whoever can help us deliver on better opportunities for people, I think it's something we must do and do immediately. There's one thing that people are looking for, accountability and transparency. And I believe Mr. Mahama has nothing to lose or gain. He ought to give the people what they deserve and what they are asking for. Yeah. I think that all of us must ensure that these investigations, when they commence, are devoid of the usual, you know, partisanship and rhetoric that has always greeted these sorts of things. It is time for us to reset Agenda Ghana.
Okay.
If we reset Agenda Ghana, build a better and stable economy alone, my sister, everything else that is out and not working will work again. Look, at the bottom of it, I mean, in your personal life, in your domestic homes, when you have no money, what happens? Things are tough.
Depressed.
Exactly. You can't do anything. You can't even take your kids to sort of schools you want them to go to.
Right.
You can't afford the basic things that you need. There are some things that we must take very, very quickly. Health, on the back of the economy. I was
it looks like speed is one of the elements that you're working with.
We must, of necessity, we must not allow the historic nature of this win. We shouldn't lose momentum even like the others did. Okay. And you see, like I say, what are the lessons that all of us can take from what has happened to Akufo-Addo, for example? A lesson in humility. That when people go out there and queue to elect you into office, they demand respect. They deserve accountability and transparency. The worst thing, they don't want you to spend all your time hounding your opponents, as he did. So he lost sight of what was important.
Right. Joyce, I want to run a few things by you very quickly. The first being your parliamentary numbers. Apart from maybe 1992, where, of course, it was a no contest.
And even then, we're only 200.
Exactly. This is like the biggest majority we've seen. In fact, this is, in Parliament, I don't know what to call it. Some have said on social media, I don't want to repeat that. They say this one is not minority. It's something else. I don't want
this one, they have no caucus.
They have no caucus.
No caucus.
But this also means, and that was why I was happy when you started talking about constitutional review.
Oh, yeah.
On the back of the 2010 Constitutional Review Commission's work. This gives you wide powers.
Wide powers, great latitude.
The fear sometimes is that
you might
power. You know, Lord Acton, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely.
But you see,
how are you going to manage this power?
I'm sure that all of us appreciate that what has happened also deserves a certain modicum of reflection. You know, look, we don't want to gloat too much. Work the country too hard. So genuinely, I know that all of our members of parliament will be conscious of this. I'm looking forward to who the leader will be. I'm looking forward to who the deputy leaders will be. I'm looking forward to whom the speaker will be. I've looked in the crucible and looked. I can't tell who will be occupying all these positions, but let me be honest with you. People do want to see that the powers in the executive are at least reduced somewhat. People want to see ex gratia go. People want to see a smaller size of government, but one that is also efficient. People want to see a certain fetter on the fiscal space. This reckless borrowing should be a thing of the past. You know, there are some key things that are not so tangible, but that if they are done and done quickly, you will see that they will trickle down and eventually the good people of Ghana will benefit from it. People are very keen on this. Look at the numbers of judges that President Akufo-Addo has appointed all across. Look at the EC, look at the partisan commissioners, for example. And I would want to see us do these things. Look, for the EC in particular, I have a very great idea that we need to advertise for what we are looking for. Have Parliament vet them, that anybody with a history of any level of partisanship ought not to serve as the chair of the Electoral Commission. I think we can start from there. But of course, once we take the whole amendment process into perspective, all these things will come up for discussion. Okay. Ghanaians want a bigger chunk of the decision-making beyond the people who sit and represent them in Parliament. That is what this win means.
On the bit of Galamsey, I'm touching on some issues very quickly just to get you. There's LI 2462, which allows mining in forest reserves and all of that. I've seen some commentary, and people want that to go as quickly as possible. What's the plan?
Oh, certainly. And I believe, yes, Mr. Mahama reiterated all those things. That is one. There's the e-levy, there's the COVID levy that we're still paying, there's the betting tax. There's quite a number of all these very nuisance taxes. And I met a businessman in the Ashanti region, and he said, Madam, I produce drinks and I'm paying 20% tax on them. How will the business survive? The business has indeed collapsed, and so have many other businesses. Mr. Mahama has already put in place a team. There's going to be a huge tax reform. Don't believe the man who told you about the tax amnesty when he doesn't know how he's going to manage the economy, because that is also unrealistic. So an entire revision of the tax regime is key. I want to see a codified tax system like we have with the Companies Act. Let's stop this business of small amendments, too many to count, too many to follow, too many to implement.
Piecemeal.
Exactly. Because in the end, you get no results, because the basis for government taxation is always about looking for revenue. And the question is that for the first time, we've seen how the revenue has been wasted. Revenue assurance, to assure what? And yet look at the money that has gone down the drain. Look at the numbers of taxes on individuals. Even you talk about wanting to industrialize, to reduce your import bill. But look at the taxes on the persons who are making an effort even. I think that private sector would want to see a tax environment that enables them to operate competitively. And if Mr. Mahama can deliver on that, and he said something in the course of the engagements with the private sector, that he will continue to engage very regularly. So this time there will be a certain consultation process as we go along. So this is what we intend to do. What does the private sector say? This is what we intend to do. How will the private sector respond? Because, my brother, if we don't do that and do that very quickly, taxes alone are a reason why people just avoid them. Because at the end of the day, better to pay a consultant in the corner to avoid tax than to go and pay, because once you pay, you have nothing to show for it.
But as you take away these taxes, and I am in full support of some of them, you also leave a revenue gap, right? We can look at the Argentinian example, and there are quite a number of lessons to be learned from what Argentina has done. A complete turnaround. But and as you take away these taxes, you left certain buffers that have been sorely depleted, like ESLA. Okay. You have the IPPs, the independent power producers, and the debts, billions owed them.
Yeah.
How are you going to address the power situation? A colleague of mine this morning came to work running helter-skelter because she had no power.
You know, look, I think that because we allowed the outgoing government to bastardize that exercise of going for independent power producers, we've actually also forgotten to think about the fact that these are the partners who will deliver on stable power supply. That you cannot power your economy to any level of industrialization without the requisite power supply to do so. But whilst we are talking about not paying them, I have not heard that we've stopped exporting the power for foreign exchange. We are still doing that. But you see, there is also a certain inefficiency in the system. There's too much wastage in the system. My brother, we could afford $58 million on a national cathedral. That doesn't exist. We could afford $11.8 million for preparatory work towards the construction of the Palugu Dam. And that dam alone is one of the reasons why I have enjoyed our performance in the northern, upper east, and up in all the northern regions, in comparison to what Dr. Bawumia told us. Because he told a barefaced lie. And yet people bought into it. Where is the $11.8 million? And they told us that it was used for preparatory work. If you and I had $11.8 million, would you use it for preparations? In any case, the land for Palugu was acquired through a legislative instrument years ago and was demarcated for such use. Why would you then be using 11.8 million cedis for preparation? PDS. And recently, Mr. Mahama was at the State Department in the US. Very disappointing news about how PDS failed because of a family feud. These are some of the reasons why we are happy to see the back of this clannish.
But that Palugu Dam project, it's an amazing project, regardless of which administration.
Yes.
We budgeted about $1 billion plus dollars for it. Is that something you would take up? Because what it would do, especially for the northern belt and trickling down, would be massive.
And it takes the white and black volters also. And when you look at the Upper East region, and I keep saying, on all my travels, if you are looking for human capital, that region delivers. And if it's land, they deliver. And they are largely an agrarian community of persons. So imagine that you can give them a regular supply of water. You know, Mr. Mahama is a farmer himself, and he since started working on his father's farms, because that's what he started doing on his retirement. And he knows that if we can provide water, not dugouts, not 1D, 1F, not all those fake highfalutin things that came to nothing, just money-making ventures. My brother, I say one thing. There are a few key things that will immediately take place over the next few weeks. And I'm happy that people know that we are not going to waste time on transition and acrimonious things about who lives where, who moves out of where. Let's focus on the majors and stop majoring on minors.
Let me chip in here at this point. I know that Free Senior High School was a big part of campaigning, both for the NDC and the NPP. So that's one thing that we are looking to see, how the NDC will handle it. But are there any key policies from the outgoing administration that the new government plans to continue or modify?
Well, just because
Let's start from
just
free
because you
SHS.
bring up free SHS. Look, I believe that the commitment was there. Indeed, the Heritage Fund is what has been used so far to fund the implementation. The system is not perfect. There's a lot that is wrong with the system. I will expect that all of you will travel with us as we go along to conduct these audits into just what is wrong with the system, so that we can all build it in a way that it works for all of us as citizens of Ghana. I mean, that project has come to stay. In any case, for those of us from Northern Ghana, we all went through it. I had a Cocoa Scholarship for years just because of where I hail from. So it is something that we all can appreciate. And seriously, what is the budget for the implementation? It is the other things, the infrastructure, for example, is a problem. Now that the parent-teacher associations no longer have any say, it's a problem. Now that the placements have become like a government entity that they put under their armpits and dictate who goes where. And also, you see, sadly, it should not have become the political paradigm that it became. It ought not, especially as the Constitution also enjoins it. And everybody was added them that at some point this was something that ought to have been done. I think that the over-politicization by Akufo-Addo was also another reason why Ghanaians have kicked them out. Because at the end of the day, you tell them you're hungry, free SHS. I'm starving, free SHS. I have no job, free SHS. I need water to drink, free SHS. Get fund. was the single largest fund ever set up in Ghana by the NDC and funded most of the infrastructure in the aftermath of Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And yet they have actually capped it also. The same with the energy sector leveling. That is why currently we are unable to pay the IPPs. Look, if we can uncap all these things in the next few months, and God has given us a parliament that allows us to take due cognizance of these things that need immediate attention.
But the reason I actually asked the question was not particularly on free SHS, but on the National Health Insurance Scheme. There's a lot of work that this current administration is doing on that front. Every day, Dr. Da Costa Boaje keeps telling us how they're trying to absorb the cost for so many things. Now we can talk about kidney dialysis free for citizens. Is that something you want to review? And I'm using that word carefully.
Let me tell you that all these things about the MPP are just money-making gimmicks.
No, the National Health Insurance
All of it. They have
absorbing the cost of dialysis.
Go to the National Health Insurance Secretariat. See the number of people they've employed. Please visit there from here. Maybe now that the governments have changed it, most of them probably will make their way elsewhere. But please go there. The people who are the beneficiaries, what do they get? Have you checked the salaries of those who work there? Have you checked the incomes, the benefits they get? Look, that is another thing that ought to receive attention. I feel very strongly about government agencies and institutions that feed fat, and the people who are beneficiaries get absolutely nothing. Go to the cocoa growing areas. Yes!
The people who are beneficiaries of especially, I'm focusing on kidney dialysis because that is
and why do you think kidney dialysis why has it become a challenge? Why is it even topical? Because people go there and don't get health assistance.
Ben, what's the figure that Dr. Da Costa Boaje gave us in terms of how much they're pumping?
I think 200 million.
200 million.
Recently, the latest figure.
Let me tell you that a lot of those monies don't go into what they are meant for.
I'm going to have to ask you to give us
I'm serious. Why? On social media, don't you see the requests every day? People asking for support because they have to go for treatment. And Baumia even promised that in the next how many weeks, right, dialysis treatment will be free. If they have 200 million and it's all covered, why would they be promising it?
But you could also say for them, while I'm not holding brief for them, you could say that is work in progress because it's actually here in this very studio
you answered even better
that he came the first time and started talking about. In fact, we pushed him and he started talking about, well, more focus going there before these actions came.
So what they're doing, what they started doing from the 1st of December, are you saying that that's not actually...
Do you know that we left a blueprint for an entire reform of the National Health Insurance Scheme? Do you know that?
No.
Exactly. So that was always a matter that was on the heart of John Mahama and the NDC. And let me tell you one thing, that our entire health system must change. A few days ago, I was at the UGMC, had an emergency, and I could see how the doctors were completely inundated. There were so many ambulances, very few hands. I tried even to ask them to move the patient into a side ward. And the young doctor came to me and said, look, we have so many patients right now. Even if we move the person, there'll be no doctor to go there and check on them. And because you've come to the emergency, we must keep them all here because that way the two of us who are on duty can pay attention. Hospital administration is a whole area of expertise. It's not just for political talk. The reality is that most of our hospitals are being poorly managed because the persons we've put in charge are not necessarily hospital managers.
Just for clarity, for the sake of those listening to us right now, are you saying that you're going to review or withdraw this policy that absorbs the cost of dialysis treatments for patients, which only began this year, this month, 1st December?
It is something that even we have in our manifesto, and I'm sure you heard us talk about it. And it was one of the things that came up for discussion because who said we were taking what, we were taking what. We had the same thing even in our manifesto in 2020. And so going even beyond that, why? Something that benefits the good people of Ghana. What will be our interest in
So you keep it?
I won't say. No, I don't want to make... I've told you, I won't let anybody take this win away from us. We earned it. We deserved it. When the criticism was due, you gave it in spades. I think you should allow us to do it our way. Ghanaians have given us an overwhelming mandate so to do.
But the assurance is...
The assurance is that we will do our very best for the good people of Ghana.
Let me run these ideas by you. There are 3 core issues. For the sake of time, let's make it a bit brief. But the first thing, you mentioned a short while ago about ex gratia, and you've spoken about scrapping, taking it off. Of course, you cannot use the law retrospectively. the law must be activated moving forward. What is the plan there when it comes to ex gratia and taking it away?
You know, first and foremost, this is a matter that has actually been on the tables for a very long time. In the course of the constitutional review amendment process, in the course of the stakeholder engagements, every citizen of Ghana agrees that this must change. In any case, at the time when my late father was a member of the Constituent Assembly, how many people in that category of Article 71 officers did we have?
And I think that's something that the Constitution did not
Excellent.
foresee.
At all.
You know, how government has grown and how the tentacles and people,
Exactly.
I mean...
And it's one of the biggest persuasions for me for why we do need an amendment. And when I spoke to General Sedun Ketia and he educated me on the background to how this particular thing came about, it made a lot of sense. But certainly today, when you have almost 15% of your population being poor, I think it's almost, it's actually unconscionable to have people in a certain category.
So it will be
immediately. And he's told us, even his appointees should not expect any ex gratia. And you see, because of this debate, you notice for the first time in the campaigning period, these matters have not come up as they used to.
Right.
Because everybody appreciates that, considering where we are today, this is definitely untenable. And I'm sure that it will require some, maybe some level of stakeholder engagement too, because remember that some of the categories, including the chairs of the various constitutional bodies, the judges in a certain category and all of that. So yes, a lot of conversations will go on. But I think that we've gotten to a stage where we can no longer have taxpayers.
I mean, there are people who have enjoyed it for what?
Forever.
Especially members of parliament, and they've been there
at every
6
cycle.
terms, 7
Exactly.
terms.
Yes,
It is unconscionable.
It is.
Quickly on continuing projects, legacy projects. Yeah. What is the plan? For example, let me just put one to you, Agenda 111. I mean, there are so many projects, and one of the biggest losses to the Ghanaian, one of them is, we're in a starting and we have so many examples. I don't want to get into those. Moving forward, what is the plan?
Yes, moving forward, I'm sure you've heard Mr. Mahama that there will be an immediate audit of all the abandoned projects, and he's repeated this in each of the 16 regions that we have toured. We must, have a matter of necessity, and I'm hoping that we're going to have some media.
I'm sorry I have to interject, yes. Sorry. But this audit is usually where the problem starts. No, hold for me. Hold for me. Saglemi started with a so-called audit. Until today, we are where we are. So explain this audit for us properly.
Let me explain to you. We know they are dotted the length and breadth of the country. Just identify them and we complete them. And this time we're not going to spend, because these are already projects that are in the pipeline. What are you waiting for? Look, we must end that consistent, trajectory. Presidency, administration of Ghana, our foremost chief executives, must remember that infrastructure ought to be a given. Whether you are MPP, you are NDC, like I tell people all the time, when you are sick and you go to the hospitals, who knows where your political affiliation lies? Yeah. So if we build on our health facilities,
no one cares.
No, nobody cares. I mean, the doctor that I met yesterday, I don't even knew who I was. I mean, later on, maybe there was a nurse who knew it was me, but he was very professional. And that is what we should expect. When you get to this point, I'm telling you that if Mr. Mahama were to renege on this particular promise, it will not be an easy thing for people to cope with. We all want to see those projects completed and in real time. And please, I don't want us to compare what we intend to do with what those other ones did.
No, I'm
they
not
told you
asking
they
for
were
any
giving
comparisons.
you one D,
I'm just
one
saying,
dam.
what is the
they
way
were giving you millions per constituency. In the course of the campaign, you didn't even remind them. So I've told you, and I love a certain song that keeps playing back in my mind, but I won't repeat it here. But let me tell you something, make no mistake. Mr. Mahama has got his pulse on this nation. With all the attacks, with all the smearing, with everything that has happened, he has stood very firm in one thing, that he loves Ghana, and he will deliver on this promise. And I think this mandate gives him that. And you can write it down.
Sweetie Amochi will come in shortly, but this last bit, there's Operation Recover or Loot. I've heard all kinds of talk about it, oral and all that. I believe we who have voted for you will want the NDC to ensure that anyone, in fact, in the course of this electoral period, as I've engaged people, the last time with Bright Simmons and co, I was talking about the fact that some of those cases, if they have not gone to court, because once they go to court and they are even there, you can appeal. But for example, the Cecilia Adapa issues and the OSP, maybe even as far back as Ejenim Boateng Ejay of the Public Procurement Authority and all of that, we must have proper closure as Ghanaians with those cases. But how are you going to deal with this oral?
We have no options, right? And
because it also shouldn't be a witch hunt. It must be done in the right way.
As a servant of a man who probably has suffered the most from witch hunts, I'm sure we will not want the same to happen to others. But that should not also take away the fact that we also demand accountability from those who have served in government at any point in time. For those where there are allegations that require a full investigation, of course they'll be done. Don't forget that we have many of these constitutionally mandated bodies to fight corruption, for example, and there are many of them. There are a whole raft of stories to do with allegations of corruption. And yes, the ones in the pipeline ought to be seen to their likely conclusions. But you see, I'm sure that even as governments have changed, certainly our judiciary itself is probably doing a certain self-introspection and knows very well that Ghanaians will not demand anything less because they will expect that they will deliver on what it is that people want. You know, my brother, we must take the questions about accountability very, very seriously. And as an NDC, I think that one of the largest reasons, someone sent me a very interesting text this morning. One of the reasons why he went out even to vote for the first time was because he heard about this operation, Recover All Loot. You understand? Mr. Mahama said he will cut both ways. And at least, and I heard Franklin Kujo say it on one of your platforms, in the case of the National Service, for example, which is a recent scandal, note that National Service under Mr. Mahama was fully investigated. If you remember, when they even...
I do.
Exactly. So, you know...
Was that not when Pesawai...
Absolutely, was there.
Now
so there was every commitment. You know, look, we work in a human institution, okay? And so certainly sometimes some of these things will happen. But I'm telling you one thing. Many Ghanaians actually went out there in support of us because they want more transparency, more accountability. They want governments to be responsible. And now we know that if you mess up, you'll go home. So we will take these talks very seriously.
So the joint transition team begin their work tomorrow.
Yes.
What does that look like? Are there any challenges you've identified? What are the top priorities? Can you paint the picture for us?
Well, you know that
begins tomorrow.
Normally all these things happen and they start off with a phone call with the current occupant of the seat of government. I believe the phone call has come, the conversation has started, and so tomorrow for the second time we'll be accompanying the boss to the seat of government. And I also do know that for the very first time also he'll be going there not just as a person going to hand over, but now he will be receiving the handing over notes.
That must be quite a feeling, huh?
I mean, look.
The last time, let me tell you, when in 2016, the former president lost, the look on his face, you could tell. And now going back as a victor, I mean, that will be something,
Do you remember
won't
his
it?
last speech in Parliament?
Yes.
Just to be fair, I can't quote verbatim, but he spoke about posterity will judge whether or not he had delivered on his mandate.
That reminds me of something,
now
actually.
He's going to take
Joyce,
the baton back from the
There was this cartoon, animation. Do you remember? Where there was a bus.
Of course.
And
the bus
former
driver
president was driving. And then
do
you remember that?
Yeah, of course.
I think it was so.
Of course.
It was so prophetic in a way. If you think of it now, you just reminded me of it.
The most ironic part was when Baromia went and picked up the steering wheel. Did that not actually sound very funny? Because there's Mr. Mahama in the bus and they say move over. And now today he wants to. So he didn't want the bus. He just wanted the steering wheel. So that should tell you that, you know, this is just how it is. Look, my sister, in all of this, God is not mocked. And God works in the affairs of men. And I know that God has actually worked in a way that we all didn't expect. He has actually put a real spring in Mr. Mahama's steps. And I know that tomorrow when this process starts, it will be focusing largely on what is good for the good people of Ghana. You know, I will say one thing. I pray we don't see the acrimony of people being chased out of their homes. I know young kids who were very traumatized by that. And I think that is something we must take and do very carefully. I mean, look at Mr. Mahama that day, that morning. And you know, I would ask Mr. Akufo-Addo this question when I see him, and I hope that tomorrow I'll be there when he comes. That small house, what would it have cost the good people of Ghana to even allow Mr. Mahama to stay there for 6 months? Let's hope that this time JM will show leadership.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Just before you go, I mean, there are some questions for you, but two very quickly.
Okay.
One, what are the main areas the NDC will target in John Mahama's first 100 days as president, including sports? What are the main areas the NDC will target in John Mahama's first 100 days as president? And you could feed in your social contract, your 120-day social contract. That would be my final bit.
You know, this is it. And I think it speaks to resetting Ghana. Jobs, accountability, prosperity. And we actually have summed it up. It will all start first and foremost with resetting the economy, okay? Secondly, we will look at the levels of hardship and know that anything you do must be to ameliorate poverty first and foremost. It must be to improve our financial standing. Secondly, it will be to stabilize our economy. Thirdly, it will be to reduce reckless borrowing. It will be making sure we find the 10 billion big push resources to invest in the private sector, to invest in government, so that we can deliver on the 24-hour economic policy. That will start to ignite the level of jobs that we want to create. We also need to ensure that we build into government efficiency, so that the wastefulness of state resources will also stop. Then, whilst we are in this heated campaign, when they do not even know whether or not they are staying in office, they are still out there procuring vehicles, I don't know for what. So hopefully those buses that came in will be put to full good use by the citizens of Ghana. So hopefully when we are going to the ministries in a few days, the buses will be deployed to carry workers to work.
If you can still find them, that is.
Well, I hope so. And remember that we are going to implement immediately an economic transformation agenda. And this was something that I think Alan Chairman spoke to at length, because remember that in the course of the negotiations to the IMF, for example, after they had sworn that they will never go to the IMF, remember that the IMF said that the homegrown solutions that were left by John Mahama were actually the way to go. I believe that we have a knack of what should be done. And in 120 days, this is Mr. Mahama's social contract. And it starts with the fact that he has a commanding lead in the House of Parliament. And so with that particular lead, a lot of things that require some rules, some regulations, some sort of regulatory or parliamentary approval will be taken very, very seriously.
This is not a question.
So this is it.
It's my parting words for you.
Absolutely.
Young people turned out in their numbers to vote for the NDC. The DDEP has hurt a lot of elderly people as well. Young people, elderly people, the most vulnerable, don't forget them. Unemployment rates are very high and all of that. Let's take care of them.
On a lighter note, I hear Martin Pewu has been tipped as incoming special prosecutor. What do you make of that?
You know, I mean, today I gave a shout out. I salute Martin, you know, one-man anti-corruption crusader.
Right.
I think he's a modern-day Martin Alamisi Amidu. So I'm sure that he'll be keeping us on our toes.
Yes,
I mean, don't forget,
he will.
Martin doesn't play. You know, he's my brother. I've known him for many, many years. I know that he will stand up and defend the cause of the good people of Ghana. And I hope, Martin, that if we err, please draw our attention in whatever category of participation that you're going to be participating in. Otherwise, he's a fantastic lawyer. You know, look, lawyer, they are.
I like how you evaded my actual question, but but that there is Madam Joyce Bawah-Mogtari. Thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations on your victory. It was beautiful to see.
Hearty congratulations.
Congratulations to you, and congratulations and salute to the first female vice president of the country, Professor Jane Opoku-Agyeman. We are happy. It's a good day to be a Ghanaian woman in this.
And I love Mr. Mahama's tribute to her. And to say to her so directly, I think was actually very, very beautiful. And Nana has done a fantastic job, you know. This campaign is not easy. Very soon, I will try very hard to publish my campaign diaries, my sister.
Okay, I'm looking forward to reading it.
And so
all right.
She's done a yeoman's job. And the central region delivered beautifully for the NDC. And so the fact that Nana is with us is not lost on us, what the central region has delivered. And so they'll be keeping faith with her, and she will then.
Now that you're mentioning regions, do you have special shouts for the Ashanti region?
Of course.
Okay.
Certainly. Look.
700K, close to 700K.
Absolutely. And you see, know that there are no strongholds now. Life has become very fluid. And with social media, my brother, nothing is lost on the society. Let's remember to respect voters, respect the citizens. Give them what they want. You see, look, when you are making an effort, people appreciate it. But just don't give them nothing and then try to tell them that it is there. Maybe you don't want to see it. I think that is what this is also.
Ghana for the Okom.
Well, we have to go. Thank you so much. Madam Joyce Bawah-Mogtari speaks for President-elect Mr. John Dramani Mahama. And thank you so much for joining us, Benjamin Akakpo. There's still so much coming your way. But before we go, I want to remind you that this year's CompuGhana Cashback has been named as Prime Cashback Season, and it's packed with incredible deals and exciting surprises. This Prime Cashback, CompuGhana is bringing you exclusive discounts, prime savings, and awesome surprises when you shop products from any of their branches nationwide. You can find products from your favorite brands like Samsung, LG, TCL, HP, Lenovo, Dell, Media, Nasco, Tecno, Infinix, Itel, Huawei, and many more. Visit any of CompuGhana branches nationwide and enjoy exclusive discounts on all products. You know CompuGhana has a wide range of IT-related products: mobile phones, laptops, printers, desktops, tablets, television sets, fridges, home theaters, air conditioners, gas cookers, and the list goes on and on. But what's more amazing is this year's Prime Cashback with CompuGhana has got great prizes with instant gifts and cash for your shopping experience. So when you shop at CompuGhana this season, be on the lookout for the surprise team. Answer a question correctly and win instant cash and gifts. You deserve this opportunity too. So rush to CompuGhana now. The promo runs to the end of December. So visit www.compughana.com or simply call 0302-752-020 for more information. Ben will tell us more and then we'll take a break. Return with more on the AM show. Please stay. This is still the AM show on Joy News, your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Now let's open the phone lines for you to have your say. The numbers are on your screen. But before we start picking the calls, a reminder that Medicus Hospital is a modern health facility built with your recovery in mind. We have spacious wards built with your family in mind. There is a warm and caring pediatric unit built with your children in mind. And we've assembled some of the brightest minds in medicine, led by Dr. Ya Osafo, the drive-time doctor, to serve you. And we offer general medical services, as well as specialist services in plastic surgery, obstetrics and gynecology, child health, urology, psychiatry, that is mental health, and eye care. Additionally, we offer a comprehensive medical diagnostic service encompassing endoscopy, medical laboratory services, x-rays, and scans. There is also a 24-hour pharmacy that ensures you will always receive efficacious, safe, and affordable medicines. But guess what? We bring you the most powerful medicine of all: simple human kindness and empathy. And we take pride in holding ourselves to the highest attainable standards. And we accept all forms of payments, including from private health insurance companies. Medicus Hospital is located at number 10 Kingshaw Street, near Ashale-Butche School Junction. You can call us on 0501-477-340 or across all social media platforms at Medicus GH. Medicus Hospital, a place of healing. The phone lines are on your screens. You can call us and share your thoughts with us this morning. But we have our first caller, Richard from Asamankase. Good morning to you, Richard.
Yeah, good morning.
Welcome to the AM show. Have your say.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, Richard. Don't listen to me on your TV set. Just speak to me directly. What's on your mind? Oh, that's not a good sound to hear. Well, this is the Have Your Say segment. Call us and share your thoughts with us, especially on everything that happened in the election. How was your experience of it? Did your member of parliament lose or win their seats? Call us and let's get a conversation going. But we'll be bringing you another interview in a bit. The Member of Parliament-elect for Ablekuma West constituency, the man who unseated Eslowusu, will be joining us shortly for a conversation. So you want to stay with us. We have Ernest on the line. Good morning, Ernest. You're on the AM show. Have your say.
Good morning. Trust you are doing fine.
I'm wonderful. What's on your mind?
Thank you. Okay, so first of all, congratulations to Don Mahama. We are very grateful for a peaceful election. Now, this is what I would want him to do. I think the first thing John needs to tackle is to ensure that we plant food all year round. When we are able to do that, the price of food will drop. People will have enough to feed their families. What that also means is that the city will appreciate. What it also means is that there will not be pressure on our forex. It will be good. Once he's able to do that, the next thing I want him to tackle is to make the past officials count for everything is taken from us. Bring them to account. That's what I've got to say.
Thank you so much, Ernest, for calling in and having your say. It's the morning after the declaration of President-elect John Dramani Mahama. And so we understand how those sentiments can be shared. Right, so let's get to the conversation with Member of Parliament-elect for Ablekuma West, who managed to unseat Eslowusu. I'm talking about Reverend Kweku Ado, and he joins me in the studio this morning. Good morning, Reverend.
Good morning.
You're on the AM show. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and you?
I'm fabulous. Congratulations on your victory.
Thank you. Thank you.
How does it feel? I remember when I asked you this question at the Constituency Collation Center, you said you were feeling very MP-ish.
Well, but as of now, I feel very tired.
Yeah.
But then inwardly, well, you realize there's more task ahead. And so the feeling is a little mixed. And also when you look at the overwhelming congratulations and support, then it makes you also begin to think in another way that one had never thought before.
Right.
But anyway, if you permit me.
Yeah.
I can, but before we go on, I have to congratulate our incoming president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, and all the other colleagues who have been able to win their seats clearly at this point. And then my constituency executives, three that I have to mention: my vice chairman, Alhaji Wela, my organizer, Charles Benning, my deputy woman organizer, Marie Ado, and all the other people. And then not to forget the clergy, my brothers and sisters who have stood with me all through this while. And then the entire people of Ablekuma West for the love that they've shown.
Right.
And I can't mention everybody, but then just to show my appreciation for the support.
Let's start there from Ablekuma West. What you've done was no easy feat. That was an NPP stronghold. In fact, one of the surprises that we got this election, and it wasn't just you, we can talk about Yawasu West, Wogon, and some other constituencies that flipped to the NDC side. So I just want to unravel who you are that was able to do this, and you're a Reverend Father. So how would you describe yourself to someone who didn't know you? Who is Reverend Kweku Ado?
You know, in 2020, I stood with her.
Yes.
I competed with her.
I think you came up with 45%, and she did 54%.
Yeah, thereabout. Yeah. You understand? And so I've been in the constituency, but, you know, we've always had the low key, because my view about leadership and politics is a little different. It's a human thing, so you're on the grounds more than... but, you know, generally, it's a competition for leadership. And in 2020, I would have said I was a novice. You know, so there are a lot of things I may not have understood. But I think given the opportunity the second time, those mistakes, we vow not to repeat them. You know, then aside that, you know, generally, there was this sense of the need for change. You know, so that played a factor. And then also because we had now found out you know, what we needed to do and where her weakest points were.
Do share. What's the strategy there?
Oh, you know, the strategy was just to get to more people. You know, so then I started my house to house in January, you know, quietly.
Okay.
You know, with just 2, 3 people, 4 people just moving. So in August, when we came out publicly, people thought we were now starting. You know, that was when they also started leasing their booth, but we were quite ahead of them. And then there, you know, in every constituency, there are stakeholders that you need to engage and see where they stand with the elections. You know, so basically we did our homework right. And I must comment that NDC in general, with vigilance, even people were so vigilant that even some of our own people were even crushed, you know, because they didn't want any stone unturned. I remember I was in Christian home, and then whilst they were calling the numbers and doing the calculation, you know, the lady, their calculation meant were 6 votes over. And that was somebody standing behind me who said, no, Reverend, there's 6 more votes. I'm saying, really? He said, because this, and this, but when you take it, it's not supposed to be so. Later, we found those in her setup. So, and previously would have just allowed them to do the accounting. You know, I think at one point, but that one, I should say, the lady was tired. She was, I think, 28, 86, 90.
Right.
You know, that,
in fact, I was at the collation center when you stormed in.
Yeah.
You remember? And it caused some altercation at the entrance to the military security personnel over there. I asked you about it already, and you said you didn't cause it. But what happened? I still don't understand what happened. You stormed in, and then something happened, and everyone just scattered all over the place. It was very chaotic.
No, what happens was that the excitement was too much for the constituents. Because when I was coming, we had finished collating our numbers and we knew we were in clear lead. And so it was time for me to come. And so even entering, so we had to park the car, maneuver away. But then at the entry point, the security felt they needed to walk in with me. And then the police also thought I needed to go in alone.
Right.
So that was where the tussle came up. But then in the end, I mean, it was a little uncomforting, but then I think we got over it.
There you are on the screens. Right. So I need to ask, you're a Reverend Minister. What experience are you bringing to Parliament?
Oh, you know, I come from a real estate background, and then also as a proprietor for over 15 years, running a basic school. And beyond that, I mean, to go into education, had my communication diploma, you know, and all that. But being a Reverend Minister is what my office is for my service to God, you know. But talking about what we bring, I think there is diverse things that I personally bring, because when it comes to education, it comes to real estate, it comes to communication, I'm very well versed, you know. But the most important thing for the people of Ablekuma, where I've lived for almost all my entire life, that I've always been pushing for a change, you know, and a better environment for us. You know, Sunday after the declaration, we just took a short thank you tour, and you see people practically crying, Reverend, nyaba wawo, no nyeke nyaba fe, meaning like, please come and help us. Whatever you've promised to do, come and do it for us, because we are dying. You know, when you hear these things, it's not about politics, it's about the human life. In Dansoman, we've always talked about the high level of unemployment among the youth. We've talked about our drainage problems. We've talked about sanitation problems. We talk about our sea defense, which is in a very deplorable state. We've talked about little children not being in school, you know, and these are just community problems. You understand? Which I think we need to lobby hard, we need to legislate, so at least in the end, we can have a better Dansoman.
Right. I mean, not just Dansoman, the whole Ablekuma West.
Yes, I mean, but you know, the entire of Ablekuma West is Dansoman.
Well, hold for me briefly. My co-host, Benjamin Akakpo, is at Obra Sports. I mean, it's the morning after the official declaration. We're gauging the mood of citizens. Benjamin Akakpo from Obra Sports. What's happening there? What can you report? Benjamin Akakpo is at Obra Sports, gauging the mood of citizens this morning. Benjamin, if you can hear me, What's the atmosphere there?
Station this morning. Yes, there's also a preacher doing his own thing there, but it's quite an atmosphere here. I'm going to be interacting with some of those here, those who actually work here, to tell us what they think about the elections so far, what happened, and what their expectations are of the new administration. I'll start with this gentleman who is right here. Pacho Bemi Wahakakra. Pacho, you're saying?
Me, I'm from Audu
You're saying?
Audu Rafiu.
Audu Rafiu. Yo, na abato na yakoto ye no. Who is saying?
Oh, abato no de ko ye. Nemum yara dampare police penino. Mi salutu no pa. Oya adwuma pa. Oya adwuma. Sana eye sanka mama betimi kura. Ko maintain no. Nanka on santena sanka ye pa. Any EC penino. Ono nso waya de. Efise we no oto ne boase. Na obo ade no nti wanye mistake dia nti omaya de
na abano nso ayeto ye no ayese yensusu ambo aban na ote so no nechi 1.7 million votes 1.67 million votes who dey say now we expect say na ebe
if say na ni yero na kire sa taxes no dose dodo taxes no dose do etu no e dose dodo eno nti na etutia no enti mama baba no ohwe no wanti tax no so no ohwe ye habon samsam wo o tax no so a na fo eno brafo ma lord fe brafo ma bibia be ye boko na mom so no so o za continue say de omo ye na onim say 4 years bebe o o man no ye ni ba bia ko ye ni ahi na e woko enti wo hwe ne ne mamba fom na o man no asundwe wo man no ma da bia no
So what he's been saying so far is that on the back of the elections, for him, he would like to congratulate the IGP, Dr. George Ekufu Dampare. He says he did a yeoman's job, and that for him, if the Mahama administration retained him as the IGP, he would be happy. He says he wasn't surprised about the number of votes by which the MPP lost, and that taxes were one of the reasons they lost. I'm now going to find out from him, finally, what his expectations are of the incoming NDC administration. Inti NDC kona as they say about one omedin kunimno. Omoba baimwa, then now person omoye.
The me person omoye and say, omo hwe ye tax nsemono. Oho na ye problem. Ye fu any boy din dodo. Yentimi ntofu e mfa nya ka adwuma yi na ukwa boso kan se o monim car pass ne boy den e dia se problem ni nyina agina taxes no yi taxes no every so na bibia mbra from na yentimi enjoy ye man but me pani chopa se Dampare obetimi am maintain na ebe boy ye nyina
yeah that's it baby. That is Audu Rafiu, who has been sharing his thoughts with us, and he insists on the IGP being retained. He also says that many of the taxes, as promised, ought to go. Let me speak to the next person in line. Please, what's your name? Obeka Chia na Obeka Brofo. Yo. Potoka Sande Debio. Yo. But you're from saying?
What you're from Stephen Ando.
Na what's who heavy?
Yes, Amasa.
Then now we are.
Oh, me a drive anywhere.
Yo. Na abato na yekoto ye no uhu no sen.
Oh, about on there, in fact, said the normal is called the Ebin that. Because said the NDC for records now, they didn't course run district regions NDC for G and Ebin that. Yenti Bisada, and I just say, who say, normal Mampene, and I just say, Norman there. In fact, and Quay into Amagana for us to do one eye, the assessor of my internal Doduana 2 tier Mampeno. Into your Bompire said the enormous young Quay Mama 2 and no Mampeno or Bessino. Obeshen the Bibia to Naquim. Maybe be I 101, send a bayer next 4 years and all. Obasan so attend a Kunyaso.
And so Stephen Andor is also a driver here. He is simply saying that things did not go well, and that manifested in the sort of votes that the NDC got in the last election, and that the incoming administration must do what the people expect to ensure that things are righted and that people get to enjoy the country economically and otherwise. Let me speak to this gentleman here. He also joins the conversation. But what are you saying?
Godfred Akon.
Godfred Akon. Now where they were?
Oh, me station chief driver. I was station here. Obla Sport.
All right, Godfrey Ako is the station, the chief driver. Now, about one I told you and saying, who say, I say, Obi Bessie tsunami, just say, baby, NDC. Now, who says, I never call.
Not yet, none, but at me, this is why no one. If it's a dependent, there was a system there. Now, you know, self people in 10. Today, you must change. But you have to run Mahamo, I'll be Disuda. When you cry on him, send him a money terrada. Tis a wabbay was with me and your mamma and your master Samaya. Yanibet, who says any year. Yes, or man, a bit me up when him, then you are him come on my.
Dainty nowadays, MPP, Edim, Kuku Poto, send your Mudi and a dainty, and I'll just say, buy.
No said, Ghana or Mumudi Diabri, if you see him so right, Jacob Fabi be pain. It did not send a more ban on ADD and the town mature 2016. Him just send an Quebec corner mile mine, Enyanano, Yanisa, send a panel. And I'm a Kuku Poto, let me abanasa, be brilliant me and Tuaba. I'm a feeling abanasa.
Na Eja Ekufuado, His Excellency, Ceciano, Nemreno, a Twitcha. Now, they importing now the Becaino.
Oh, Mecano was. Send you what me see, Janaya, what me, Jinan and also to me the year. Say, Fred Case will be what me Jinan so yeah. At least, Obia Ponya one wants to see the Nibanya one city one. Oh, yeah. Why am I at Timos or yeah? Or yet you would meet me the nice form to me, baby. But they do baby Navi, I won't say. And you may be a foot will be how one Timin Tiema, what media. I can't and one man at me, but me can and the can I say, what me see Janaya with me, Emma with me, a Fred Case, my meeting me. That's fine. It's
another to me, yeah, Osinipi. Yes. Yeah. Now, so you do, baby, no, I saw me and prior go on my soon. It took a be a monte.
I'm more than no one at Adam, Sabia, no one of the born once of and Sabia. What to me, I know the Abia Dadan of bet. Near no one and a gun in here, so no maybe pretty woman I catch. But just I do not know Ukrainian, just I never cost. I couldn't him, and so boo, and you're going to assume you feel on my side.
Basically, what he's saying is there were certain conditions that led to the demise of the MPP or its gargantuan loss in the last elections. And he says that while free SHS was a good policy, there were certain things that were going awry, going wrong. And when you said it, no one would listen. That led to the capitulation of the MPP in the last election. He also says that the former president, Mahama, has been there before. And if he's returning, he should know that the expectations are high and that people want him to do the right thing to make us better. Let me move on to see whether I can get a few more people to...
That is Benjamin Akakpo there at Obra Sports gauging the mood. And let's get back in the studio here with Reverend Kwekwado. Rev, do you agree with what some of the citizens are saying? Yes, what would be your assessment of the IGP, the EC, in fact, the whole turnout for this election?
Well, I think the police service did what they were supposed to do. And that, in my constituency, I think they did well. With the EC, when you look at the general performance or the atmosphere, everywhere you went, MPP were clearly losing. So there was no need for anybody to even try to do anything untoward. You know, had it was close, then we could have really tested whether the IGP will stand the test of time or whether the EC, like the guy was saying.
Well, we did see military, even at your constituency, we saw military personnel come to the venue, the collation center, Mount Olivet.
Yes.
And citizens sacked them from their premises. I thought it was very wonderful to see that Ghanaian citizens were putting their lives on the line and said, the IGP said no military personnel would be allowed around these premises, so go away.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, power has always been with the people. If the people can realize that the power is with them, all the things that have gone on in the past wouldn't have gone on. You understand? And so, like I was saying, if the military are not supposed to be there, and we stand up for our rights, to say don't be there. And you know, for that particular one, I was at our collation center. We heard that apparently somebody who put in the call that I think there were some ballot boxes that were coming in or people. So they came to view or to see what was happening. And even with that, you saw the stampede. You know, so basically, I believe every citizen should do what they are supposed to do, whether it be a political party, whether it be any group of persons. Because once we do that, you know, and talking about the taxes, everything that has gone on during the corruption in the MPP government, is because we, the Ghanaian people, didn't stand up to them. You get a point. Because when you look at a situation where... Oh, yeah, I believe so. You know, where somebody, sanitation minister, keeps so much money, and then in the end, the money is returned to her, and really nothing comes out of it. What do people think?
Was it a case of we citizens enabling or not standing up to the government, or it was rather the case of we weren't able to freely express or register our displeasure against some of the things that was happening?
Well, a little bit of both. Yeah. But, you know, towards the end of this period, you know, you could see more demonstrations and things because people were now beginning to voice out their opinions about the things that they were not too okay with. You understand? So I believe that somebody was asking, oh, Reverend, you say you are going to Parliament, this, that. You know, it's you, the people, that I'm supposed to go serve. If at any point I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, you need to question me. And you know, in Ablikma West, that's why I keep telling them, I'm going to create the MPs Forum, that periodically we meet with the stakeholders. Then wherever I'm going wrong, you bring it to my attention. Why certain things are not being able to be legislated in their favor, you also explain to them. Then now you build a community or a nation where people understand the people who lead them. But when it feels like those leading are on one side and the people on the other side, then the sense of not being able to speak comes in. And then when you have an MPP government, that tends to crash anybody who tries to speak, then that becomes another issue. But I believe when you look at His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, over the years, his style of leadership, he listens. You understand? And I think that is a key, even to good leadership. You know, so I believe as we move forward, he's not going to change, and now he's rather going to come with more experience to enhance all that he's done before. Okay. My only prayer, that NDC, when we come to power, will do right.
Okay, I think that's the prayer of every Ghanaian. Yeah. So apart from this MPs Forum, what are the new policies, initiatives? What's new that you're bringing to your constituency now? And I want you to say it on record so that if you don't do it, we can hold you to it.
You know, the MPs Forum, it's the thing because people have always complained that they don't see their MP. You understand? And I've always advocated that.
Especially in that constituency. I heard so much reports.
And also I think even in Greater Accra, if possible, every MP, it will be good if they live within the constituency. It gives you a first hand of what is going on. Beyond that, you know, the NDC policy has fallen into the things I've been telling them. When it comes to the National Skills Program, we are going to duplicate same in Ablikuma West. When it comes to the women empowerment, thank God NDC is bringing the National Women's Bank. Yeah. You know, when it comes to, in Ablikuma West, we're looking at our community development, sanitation, you know, and in-house employment for the youth. You know, when you go to portions of our community, our sanitation is so bad that I believe we can train some of the youth to become sanitation guards for the communities. And the same with our security, where we don't have enough security forces. I mean, the youth can play neighborhood watch guards, and you know, all of them, we find a way to be able to give them some stipend from the municipal now because we have the ability to be able to do that. You know, it's not the big things. You know, when you look at a place like Dansoman, I think from the municipal standpoint, we should be able to have an adult center. You understand? Where, you know, the adults in the community, because I've met people who were part of the group that developed Dansoman, that planned it. I've had, professors, engineers who are retired and they are still home. And it's not like, and I think we can engage them to be able to tap into their knowledge to build a community.
Right.
You know, so basically these are the things. If you like, my 7 thematics were very simple, you know, but most of them, interestingly, became in line with what NDC wants to do. So then I realized that we have the right man to lead us moving forward.
Right. So 2 quick follow-ups on this. How long have you been with the NDC and what happens to your ministerial work now?
I was a sympathizer when I was in the US, and then from 2012, you know, we're all worried about getting into politics with our businesses.
There's some conflicts there, is there not?
About?
Being a minister, a reverend minister, and venturing into politics. There was no conflicting...
No, I think in the beginning, people kept asking. That was the foremost question I got everywhere I went. Oh, a reverend minister, why do you want to do politics?
Yeah.
You know, but I also know that the Bible clearly states, and even before our era, it was men of God filled with the Spirit of God who led the nation. because they needed to hear the voice of God for the people, you know. But modernization has come so much, but then still the word of God remains the same. It says, when the righteous lead, the people rejoice. When the wicked also rule, the people suffer. You know, so if there was anything, and that's what I've been admonishing my fellow clergy, you know, because in our congregations, we still have people who suffer the high rise in taxes, the unemployment, and we keep doing sharababababa for them. But then when we are in position to be able to speak, to legislate, and things get better for them, then the congregation and the folk, they also even get better lives to live. Yeah. And now serving God even becomes easier. You ask the pastors, now the offerings are not coming because the people don't have money. They don't have jobs, you understand? But then when we create an avenue where they are well employed, then they'll be able to give unto God.
So it's all connected, is it not?
Very much so.
Right. My final bid to you would be, going into this next administration, Ghanaians are expecting a lot, not just from members of parliament, but from, you know, the president-elect and so on and so forth. What do you think should be that unique selling proposition that this government, including yourself as members of parliament, newly elected, that this administration should do differently so that we don't boot you out the way we booted out the NPP?
I think one, cut expenditure. Cut expenditure. Cut expenditure.
Is it possible?
It should be possible because we will all understand that if we don't do that, and to be honest, we don't know how bad the situation is as of now. You know, the economic thing they talk about all is what is being said. But I'm sure once you come into administration and now you really start looking at the books, you have the time and the mandate to be able to do that, it may be worse than we are thinking.
Yeah.
And anytime there are difficulties, I think the first thing, that point of action is that you cut your expenses. And that's why His Excellency says he's going to cut down his ministers to about 60. You understand? Maybe some people may understand, but for some of us, we think that is the right way. You know, and then maybe, you know, any thing that is a waste during this period, I think should be cast. You understand? I keep telling my constituents, I wouldn't mind driving a Honda Pilot to Parliament. You understand? Than driving a V8 and buy 2,000-3,000 fuel, where maybe 1,000 can do on a Honda Pilot or so.
You see, the problem I had, and this is just from my perspective, yeah. When you sit with people, regular individuals, you know, leaders even, it appears the diagnosis, there's no problem with diagnosing what the problem really is. And then they get into positions of power, and I see there's something on the seat that turns their minds around. You know, this conversation we're having about what we should do, cut waste and all that, it would not surprise many Ghanaians if in the next 4 years it turns out that you've done worse than the Akufo-Addo administration. What happens to them?
I pray not. I pray not. You know, anytime somebody has experience in doing something, definitely they may have learned something that they need to do new. You understand? And we know now with all that, the number of seats that NDC has accrued in Parliament, with an experienced president coming back, if we are not able to deliver, you understand? But the assurance or the thinking for me, for the Ghanaian people, is that they need to be patient with us. Definitely it's going to take a while to be able to figure out how bad the mess is. And then with that, we will all put in our bets to cut the cost and to do things in moderation, even in our constituencies and everywhere. Because when the young boys in Glefe tells me that, Reverend, the bed tax, let's remove it, let's remove the bed tax. And I said, when we come, we'll do that. When I have the position, I have to lobby for them to take it off. And they will be happy doing that, you understand? Okay. When we talk about our sea defense, that is destroying the entire Blakuma West. And I'll have to be on my knees, do whatever it takes to lobby for it to get done. We've saved the township. And in that case, it will not be, somebody because of this sea defense may have lost their livelihood, a place of living, and their job. So once that is solved, at least they get a sense of relief. You get a point. So right. I think we'll all have to brighten our own corners. And I believe with the experience that His Excellency and his style of leadership, definitely it will turn out good.
Right. On the election day, I met Eslo when she came to vote. I think Mother Care also. And then I asked if she had seen the work you were doing and if she had concerns that you were, catching up to her. She said that you are unable to manage a school. What shows that you can manage a whole constituency? What's your argument? And that's my final bit to you.
Oh, no, it's not an argument. I mean, she's...
Or pitch. What really have you done? What can you show and tell us that I've done ABC or I am so and so, for which reason I can assure you that Ablekuma West constituency.
No, let's focus on the
school. It's in good hands.
Let's focus on the school that she mentioned.
Yes.
You understand? When the entire Greater Accra, out of 600 and something schools for the BEC, because my school is a basic school, we are always in the top 50. So how worse can a school be?
Top 50?
Yes. The top 50.
Wouldn't you have bragged more or better if it was top 10?
No. When we're talking, yes, top 10 would have been better.
Yeah.
But then we are talking about big schools.
Okay.
You understand? And the good thing about that is our record is consistent. Children who come to Darwin Christian School end up with good schools, A schools, you understand? And for me, that is the achievement. And maybe she didn't know. We don't intend to have big school. It was a home school that we built. But then going back to the community, I think the basic needs of the people realize that I'm able to do. I dug a borehole about 13, 14 years ago, which I've been serving the community. When you look at the number of students, I give over almost 60 to 100 scholarships a year.
Okay.
And I mean, personal evolution, you understand?
Right.
So, but anyway, I called my queen mother called me this morning. And then she congratulated me. Then it's like, that's the way you, ma'am, we have
to go. We have to go. Right. This is Reverend Kweku. Thank you so much for coming. I'll give you 30 seconds. Final words. Maybe you want to say something to your constituents.
Oh, no. Yes. I really appreciate they believing in me to give me the nod. And like I've always told them, I'll be honest with them in my leadership. Everything I'll do, I'll make sure it's impactful for their community. And so that in the end, even when time will judge and say, or prosperity will say that a man came, Reverend Kweku, and he did good for Ablekuma West. You come to Ablekuma West now, says, oh, when Fritz came, the high street was done and all that. And I want to do something that my children and the next generation will be proud of.
And that there is Reverend Kweku Addo, MP-elect for Ablekuma West constituency, the gentleman that unseated, current member of parliament for the area, Esla Owusu, and Minister for Communications and Digitization. Thank you for joining us, and this is how we're wrapping up for the AM show today, Tuesday, since we've been back after the election. You know that we are your election headquarters. But before we go, Ghana, get ready for the biggest giveaway from Syntex Tank. Syntex is giving 15 communities free water, and this is just to say thank you for making us number one. Syntex was the first to introduce double-layer tanks in Ghana. Do you know that Syntex also comes in so many colors and was the first to come out with inner white layer? So when it's not Syntex, forget about it. Now, if you're a community and you want to benefit from the Syntex free water giveaway, just log on to their social media handles on all social media platforms. They are Syntex Ghana, and nominate your community. The more you nominate, the better chances you have of Syntex coming to your community. Remember, it is SINTEX, Syntex Tank. Not be any tank, be tanku. The correct tank, the Syntex Tank. Syntex Tank, a strong, a tough. My name is Sweetie Abochi, and I did this with Benjamin Akako. We are back on your screens tomorrow. But do stay for Joy News Desk with Faustina Sako. Bye.